till 11 p.m. tomorrow. And right now it's 73 degrees in downtown Salt Lake City. Inside Sources coming up next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, Rocky Mountain Power's urging people to watch their energy use when 100-degree heat returns to the Wasatch Front tomorrow. Company spokesperson Dave Eskelson tells KSL doing little things like running your dishwasher, dryer, or other major appliances outside of peak hours can help not only your wallet, but the grid as a whole.
While we're ready for the peak load, we don't expect any capacity-related problems. But it's just a good idea in particularly hot weather to be aware of these things.
Eskelson says if you can do so comfortably, set your AC to 78 degrees. The company says peak energy demand is between about 3 in the afternoon to 8 o'clock at night. Wildland fire crews with forestry, fire, and state lands have been working each spring and fall for the past 4 years near Morgan to make the wooded areas there more accessible in case they need to fight a fire. Ground crews have been cutting trees and branches away from dirt access roads. They say not only does the work help firefighters and provide escape routes, it also opens up more wildlife habitat. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, the Supreme Court has ruled in favor of a Tennessee law that prohibits transgender surgery for minors.
It's a 6-3 ruling upholding Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care such as puberty blockers, hormones, and surgery for minors. Chief Justice John Roberts writes, the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause does not prohibit the state from enacting such a law, and that the issue is for the people and their elected representatives, not the courts, to decide. Liberal Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote a dissent, and she said she did so in sadness, adding that the court, quote, abandons transgender children and their families to political whims.
ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow's up 257 points to 42,473. Coming up, we've still got slow spots all over the commute. Plus, we're getting ready for that 100-degree day tomorrow. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time 9:02.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Are you looking to invest in your home, increase its livability, increase its value, increase its curb appeal? Well, doors and windows are a great place to start, and there's no better place to start than Peach Doors and Windows.
Maybe the purpose of your home has changed. Maybe you're an empty nester, or you just want to maximize the view of your home. Bring Peach your wish list. Think about out-of-the-box shapes and sizes. What you can imagine, Peach Doors and Windows can make happen. They can do renovations that other companies simply won't touch.
You can check out all of their 5-star reviews on Google, where customers rate Peach throughout every step of the process. From sales to installation, they will make sure you get exactly what you want. Check out their website at peachbuildingproducts.com. You can give them a call, 801-566-1255. They do free in-home estimates.
Or better yet, check them out in person, 2940 South, 300 West in Salt Lake City. They're open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, or check them out online, peachbuildingproducts.com.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want to tell you about our famous "You Don't Need a Warranty" warranty. That's right. It's a warranty you don't need, but we give it to you anyway. Let me explain. Most warranty problems for siding, gutters, and windows are caused by not installing stuff right in the first place. If you rush the work, cut corners, or use subpar materials. You're just begging for problems later. At RGS Exteriors, we don't tolerate careless workmanship. We slow down, focus on every detail, and use only the best materials. We prevent warranty work by doing the job right in the first place. That's why the 10-year everything guarantee we give you is also known as our "You Don't Need a Warranty" warranty. We absolutely will be there if you need to use it. But honestly, you probably will never have to. Done right the first time. That's the RGS way. For siding, gutters, and windows, call 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsexteriors.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Tito Nani.
We have slowdowns on northbound I-15 at the point of the mountain in Lehigh, up to about 132nd south in Draper. Also on the other side of the freeway, slow speeds on southbound I-15 Draper between 23rd south up to 146th south. But it looks to clear up after that as you get further into Utah County. Head to Logan for nonstop festivals and fun, free concerts and movies under the stars, Broadway theater performances, Gardener's Market, outdoor living history, hiking, biking, and diverse dining. Robust calendar at explorelogan.com. Tito Nani, KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, it'll be a hot day with highs in the lower 90s. Tomorrow we could potentially reach 102 degrees. Right now it's 73 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We have some developing news this morning that just happened within the last half an hour, and that is that the Supreme Court of the United States held this morning that Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care for transgender minors is constitutional. It was a 6-3 decision in a case where Tennessee was effectively blocking transgender care for, gender-affirming care for minors under the age of 19. And it was Tennessee's, sorry, I'm reading the case and talking at the same time. I'm going to slow down. Senate Bill 1 from Tennessee prohibits health care providers from prescribing, administering, or dispensing puberty blockers or hormones to any minors for the purpose of gender dysphoria and other things that were inconsistent with the minor's biological sex at birth. Now, they did say that they can use this care for certain medical conditions, such as congenital defects, what they call precocious puberty, disease, or physical injury, but not for, they don't use the word gender dysphoria, but that's sort of what they're describing here.
Yeah, that's right. And so this case is one that they were, I think both sides were really waiting to see what would happen with the Supreme Court. And we have a ruling now, and your legal expertise will come into play here, of course, but one of the things is I think that our listeners need to know is there's 26 other states that have laws similar to the one in Tennessee. Utah is one of those places where we do have laws in place that block these, that's almost a pun, but block the use of these puberty blockers and hormonal treatment for gender dysphoria in minors.
Right. And the issue here, Holly, was whether or not this violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, and the Supreme Court said it doesn't. And they really went through a pretty detailed analysis, but what they said was that there are certain classes that are protected classes, such as sex, obviously.
Right.
And when you deal with something, a protected class, the court has to exercise what they call a heightened scrutiny. In other words, they really have to be careful when you are passing laws that discriminate based on a protected class. But they went through analysis, said that this didn't have anything to do with sex in the classic sense, because both a male and a transgender female could have the same surgery. It wouldn't make any difference. So sex wasn't a part of it.
Right. That's correct. And so as I understand it too, right, and again, you're the legal expert, but because it's can be applied either way, right? It's not, for example, only biological females can be pregnant. It's saying that because either a biological male or a biological female at birth can receive treatment for gender dysphoria, that this heightened scrutiny. Oh my goodness.
Heightened scrutiny does
Thank
not
you
apply.
so much.
In other words, they say if there's a rational basis, that's the standard when it doesn't involve heightened scrutiny.
Yeah.
That is that there's a rational basis for it. And so in that regard, the court said that this is a quote, sort of the end of the opinion. The court's role is not to judge the wisdom, fairness, or logic of the law, but only to ensure that the law does not violate the equal protection guarantees. It does not. So then they went on, and this is sort of what you're talking about, Holly. Questions regarding the law's policy are appropriately left to the people, their elected representatives, and the democratic process. In other words, they're saying we're not weighing in on whether this law makes sense. We're not saying that we are for or against gender-affirming surgery.
Right.
What we're saying is that when we look at a law that a state passes, we don't question the judgment of the state. We question whether it flies in the face of the Constitution. The argument here was the constitutional prohibition that the plaintiffs were arguing was, hey, it violates the Equal Protection Clause, and the Supreme Court said no, it doesn't. Both sexes are treated equally under the law.
Right. So there are about 300,000 minors, at least between the age of 13 and 17, that are who identify as transgender in the United States, and about 1.3 million adults also who identify as transgender. So certainly people who identify as transgender and the issues facing them have been in the news a lot, even over the last 5 years, I would say. But we certainly have had conversations about people who compete in sports, and that has been a discussion in the state of Utah as well. And we've had discussions about whether people who are transgender can be in the U.S. military, whether they can have some kind of a notice on their passport that either changes their gender identity at birth to whatever the current identity is, or if they put an X on the passport. And a U.S. judge just ruled actually that the federal government can't prohibit that, so that's going to work its way through the system too as well.
Right, and importantly, this law, the Tennessee law, and I think Utah law is similar, only involves this prohibition as it relates to minors. So adults can still have the surgery, and they went through they went through kind of a scientific analysis as well, and apparently they had some members of the scientific community talk about it and said, look, a lot of times these things happen, and the legislature in Tennessee said that often, and I'm quoting from the legislative sort of background behind this, many minors lack the maturity to fully understand the consequences. Some individuals have expressed regret for undergoing that treatment as a minor, and they never understood the full effects of the treatment, and the full effects may not even be known at that age. So what they're saying is that age-based classification is not inappropriate. Sex-based would be, and it would be the same for driver's license, alcohol, that type of thing. You can pass laws that make a difference and distinguish how a person is treated based on their age. And what they're talking about here, I think, is really do people of that age fully understand and comprehend what they're getting into. And I can understand the plaintiff's argument, which we've heard before also, which is if you don't have this surgery and if you do wait until you've gone through puberty and you've gone through certain things, that it's often difficult to reverse some of those effects.
Right, and of course there were 3 justices who dissented, and Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor gave she actually read her dissent, I think, from the bench, and one of the things she said is that Tennessee's ban applies no matter what the minor's parents and doctors think, with no regard for the severity of the minor's mental health conditions or the extent to which treatment is medically necessary for an individual child. She also said it abandoned transgender children, and the Utah legislature actually ordered a study to look at the health impacts of minors who identify as transgender. And one of the things that the study showed, and it just barely came out recently, but it showed that suicidal ideation was increased when it felt like when these minors felt like they could not receive appropriate medical care.
Yeah, and again, I understand the dissent, and I read what she said, but there are some exceptions in the Tennessee law for health-related reasons, congenital defects, that type of thing, disease, physical injury.
Still different, but yeah, talking about gender
right.
dysphoria.
They talked about some indications and some things that could occur by which a person could have this surgery under the age of 18, but gender dysphoria not being one of them. And I think, without getting into the medical part of it, there's a lot of people that are not sure about that medical diagnosis in the first place, or whether or not and how it exists. I mean, that's just the argument. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with that. When we come back after the break, wow, that was breaking news. I mean, literally breaking within the last few minutes. Up on Capitol Hill today in Utah, interim meetings are underway where lawmakers will discuss policy and potential legislation for the next session. Senator Todd Weiler will join us later today and discuss what we call adoption tourism being brought to light. Stay with us.
When you want a brand new kitchen, there's nothing to it. There's a brand new way to do it. 3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
Eileen talks about her experience with 3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
A lot of gross kitchen in the beginning, cracked formica, bad floor, ripped linoleum, and I decided to heck with this. I want it done. And I found an ad from 3-Day Kitchen and Bath. I called him. Dave brought all of his stuff. We talked about what I wanted. I chose the materials. It was very easy. He came in, he did what he said. They did it in the time frame that they said, at the cost that they said. His crew was delightful. We came home, everything had been cleaned up. I would say people are silly not to do 3-Day Kitchen and Bath. I just love it. It's just like I moved into a new home.
It's about time.
3 days or less
at 3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
Hey, this is Dan, the laptop man from PC Laptops. Let me tell you an amazing story. Last week, a customer came in. They were a creative director for an agency, and they were frustrated that their old, slow computer wasn't processing their files quick enough. He had a big project due and could not afford any delays. Well, we hooked him up with one of our new, powerful 2025 desktops for only $999, and he was able to complete his project with ease. Take one home today. The new 2025 S1 desktop or SM3 laptop for only $999. You heard that right, $999. You get a blazing fast processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing storage for $999. What else you get? Lifetime service warranty, and we have 12 months special financing on approved credit. Hurry in right now because supplies are limited, because at PC Laptops, we love you. Just check us out at PCLaptops.com. $999, PCLaptops.com.
Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you don't just want a low price, you want the lowest price. And with our lowest price guarantee, you can count on us for competitive prices on all your home improvement projects. If you find a qualifying lower price somewhere else on the same item, we'll match it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Price match applies the same item, current price at qualifying retailers. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how we'll match price at lowes.com/lowest price guarantee.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Attention RVers! In 57 years, Motorsportsland has never had a sale like this before. We've got over 100 new models coming in and our lots are already almost full. We've got to clear out inventory fast, so we've selected over 100 new travel trailers, fifth wheels, and toy haulers to sell to you at or below dealer cost. Like our 2024 Encore Venue off-road travel trailer, MSRP at $30,000, normally priced at $25,000, dealer cost at $22,400, and this week only priced to you for below $17,000 with amazing financing options. Or our 2024 28-foot Stealth toy hauler fifth wheel, MSRP at $99,330, normally priced at $83,500, this week only $67,743. Save more than ever before on your dream RV. But these deals are disappearing quick, so visit a Motorsportsland RV Center today.
Let Motorsportsland help you get away.
Motorsportsland.com.
Need to replace your Social Security card? In most states, you can request one online with a My Social Security account. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can also get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Today on Utah's Capitol Hill, interim meetings are taking place where lawmakers will discuss policy and potential legislation for the next session. We have luckily with us Holly Richardson, my co-host, who can tell us and remind us, Holly, what it is, what interim sessions are, and what we can expect this year.
So interim sessions happen in the interim between the two legislative sessions, or at least the one that happens every year. So 45 days, the end of January to beginning of March is the regular session. That's when the voting happens and all the laws are passed. But during the interim, 6 months out of that in-between time, the lawmakers will meet once a month and they will talk about issues that they want to address in the next legislative session. So they're planning ahead right now for 2026. So today, what is happening is this morning at 8:30, some morning committee meetings started, and then in the afternoon, there will be another set of committee meetings. And one of the issues that has really stuck out to me as I looked at the agenda for all of these is that the Judiciary Interim Committee is talking about adoption tourism. So as an adoptive mom, it's an issue that at least caught my eye, and I think it's a really important topic, actually. And we're actually really lucky to have the chair of that committee, Senator Todd Weiler, who join us on the line right now. Welcome, Todd.
Welcome. Thanks. Hi, Holly. Hi, Greg.
Hello. Good morning. What can you tell us about adoption tourism, what it means, and why it's being discussed today?
Well, it's a little bit of a flippant term, and it was coined, for people like going to China and other countries to adopt children, but
I feel
here
that
it's being
personally.
Right. Well, anyway, my next door neighbor is adopted from China, and that girl's been part of our family for 20 years, but extended family. But so here it's being applied to Utah. It's what this topic that we're going to be discussing this afternoon is people from out of state intentionally doing adoptions in Utah to take advantage of our adoption laws. And so these are not people from China. This is mostly people from, the other 49 states, because there are some aspects of our adoption laws that I guess they find appealing. And that goes with, for example, the birth mother may consent to adoption just 24 hours after delivery, and that's one of the shortest windows in the nation. And so I actually dealt with legislation, or I actually passed legislation about 6 or 7 years ago, because we had so many people flying in where nobody really had a Utah connection. They were just coming here. The baby was exchanged here, or the baby was born here. Sometimes they'd fly in the birth mother before the birth, and then everybody would leave, and they're just kind of using our system. So I had thought we'd kind of nip this in the bud with some changes we made 8 years ago, but apparently not. There's other requirements in Utah for protecting the rights of unmarried biological fathers, known as the putative fathers. That's what the courts call them. That has been a particular focus, and the right of or the subject of legal challenges, because Utah basically requires the unmarried biological father to reach out to the state and find out, or to register so that they can find out if there's an adoption taking place. And there's other laws that have to do with the right to consent. An unmarried father faces additional requirements, such as they have to initiate paternity proceedings in a Utah court within 6 months of the adoption and file a notice of paternity with Vital Records, which is a state agency, and demonstrate that they offered to pay pregnancy-related expenses. So what we're finding is some people find Utah's laws so accommodating for adoption that they'd rather do their adoptions here than anywhere else in the country. And that can invite fraud. It can invite, maybe some elements of human trafficking, and that's what we're going to be studying.
So, Todd, I've been around long enough, and especially as an adoptive parent, I didn't really do the private adoption, infant adoption route. I mostly did international, but I remember this has been, gosh, you might have to remind me, but I bet it's been at least 20 years that there were some laws that were passed in Utah where we really did start to open it up and make it for a while, really, birth mothers were the only ones that needed to provide consent if they were not married. And I think one of the arguments that I remember at the time is that if the biological father actually had a relationship, then he would know that she was pregnant. And then, as you mentioned, we've now strengthened that law a little bit, but there's still issues with these biological parents. So I guess that was a statement. And then my question is, what type of legislation do you think might come out of today's discussion?
Well, I think some of the three areas I just covered, we might look at strengthening or tightening those up. I don't know that constitutionally we can make adoption laws like this is what happens if you're from Utah and this is what happens if you're from another state. So we'll have to look at some of the laws around that, and maybe your KSL legal expert could weigh in on that. But we don't want to be facilitating any sort of human trafficking here. And we don't want to be inviting bad actors into our state. And so that's what we're looking at. And, as I was preparing for today's hearing, I think this is interesting. In 2019, so before COVID, we had about 2,100 adoptions take place in Utah. And then that dropped down to about 1,600 during COVID. And it's never even gotten close to 2,000 since then. So of everything else that COVID has affected, it seems like it may have affected the number of adoptions as well.
Todd, I just thinking out loud here a little bit. For example, if a couple wants to get divorced, they can't just come to Utah and do that. You have to establish like a 90-day residency requirement. So you could. I'm just thinking that, but there could be some sort of residency requirement or something like that in order to obtain an adoption in Utah. I don't know. I'm not trying to tell you how to do the legalese of that, but you challenged me a little bit. So I was just thinking about things that might apply here. I'm also interested in the father's rights. Would this be separate legislation or sort of tied into the same legislation, or what are you thinking there?
It could be either or both, but here's the thing. You've got these different moving parts. So you've got the birth mother, right? And then you have the adoption, the adopting, usually it's a couple. I guess it doesn't have to be a couple. And so, do you have a residency requirement on the birth mother or the adopting couple or both? I mean, I think it'd probably be fairly common for a birth mother to be from Utah or Idaho and then have a couple from the other state adopt. And we don't necessarily want, to preclude something like that. But if you have a birth mother from L.A. and you have an adopting couple from Connecticut, and they're just meeting in Utah for a day and a half to do the legal work, and file the paperwork, that's more the scenario that we're concerned about.
Mm-hmm. Can you mention really briefly the role adoption agencies might play in what you're looking at today?
Yeah, and we don't have what I think is termed adoption facilitators. We don't have those in Utah like they do in some other states. So adoption agencies can play a variety of roles, including matching the birth mother with the adopting couple. I think that's probably the most significant role. And I haven't adopted, Holly. I know you have, so you're welcome to share your experience as well, because I tell people I'm just a dumb lawyer. So, but I've also been involved as an attorney in cases where, the birth mother, it's not uncommon, this might be a shock to some people, it's not uncommon for adopting couples to maybe pay some living expenses and some medical expenses for the birth mothers. But then it also all of a sudden gets into gray areas, because I was involved legally in a case years ago where the birth mother said, well, I need to get to and from my doctor's appointments, so I want you to buy me this fancy car. Of course, that's $70,000, and I get to keep the car after the adoption. Well, that starts looking like you're trying to sell the baby, right? And so that's where I think the government needs to be involved, because we cannot allow babies to be sold in our state. So there are some gray areas that need to be tightened up.
Yeah, there's no disagreement from me. We don't sell babies, right? So, yeah, I really appreciate the look at this, and I think it's an interesting topic, and I think it's an important one. Good luck as you discuss that in your Judiciary Committee later this afternoon. Thanks for joining us, Todd.
I'm wondering,
Thank you,
Holly, why? I wish we had more time with Todd, but why Utah's laws regarding adoption would be a little more loose than other states.
I really think we're a pro-family state, and it was an issue, where people at the time when they passed these laws that made it easier for adoptive families to adopt. I really think that's the fundamental basis for it, is we're pro-family and we wanted to make it easier, not harder.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, good for the legislature for addressing that. When we come back after the break, Utahns are weighing in on how they'd vote on a referendum that seeks to undo a new state law regarding banning public employee unions. We'll be back after the break.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour: an 18-year-old was killed in Riverton yesterday after police say he was shot by his father.
The shooting at South Kessler Peak Drive went down around 3 in the afternoon. Josh Lee with Riverton Police say they were told the shooting was an accident, but will continue to follow standard protocol.
We still have an investigation going on. We have their detectives on the scene at the house, and they're doing their investigation. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the father, he's cooperating.
Lee says after the shooting, detectives shut down the scene to begin their investigation, and the 46-year-old father was taken to the police station to be questioned. Claire Scott, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News: President Trump is reportedly considering American involvement in the Iran-Israel conflict.
There's obviously lots of intelligence going on in the background that we don't know, and it's probably best that the public doesn't know, because the president, at least arguably, does not want to go to war, and he ran on not going to war and getting us out of the forever wars. And so he probably really doesn't want to do this, but given his tone and the kinds of things that he's saying now, he is obviously being convinced that the Iranians have been stalling and that they would never willingly give up that nuclear capability.
Former State Department official and ABC News military analyst Steve Gagner reporting. Your money at this moment: the Dow doesn't appear to be affected by the Iran-Israel news. It's up 197 points right now to 42,413. Coming up, 100-degree weather tomorrow, but it's going to be pretty warm today, too. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 9:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to soda, just amazing.
I started on soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our client's portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at fisherinvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Tito Nani.
We have a crash on I-215 northbound at 2100 North, just about 1 mile before the Legacy Parkway exit. It is off to the right shoulder and out of traffic. Also reports of another accident on southbound I-15 at 123rd South in Draper. The left 2 lanes are blocked off and causing heavy delays back towards 106th South. Tax problems keeping you up at night? Get the IRS off your back. Let Utah tax attorney Jordan Wilcox stop IRS harassment now. Visit endtaxworry.com. That's endtaxworry.com. Tito Nani, KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, it'll be a hot day today with highs in the lower 90s. Tomorrow, we could potentially reach 102, and there is a heat advisory out for tomorrow from noon until 8 p.m. Right now, it is 73 degrees in sunshine and 75 now and sunny in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Utahns are weighing in on how they'd vote on a referendum that seeks to undo a new state law. The law would ban public employees' unions from bargaining for better pay and working conditions. At the legislative session this year, the legislature passed and the governor supported at House Bill 267, I believe, Holly, which it's limited to public employees' unions, not unions in general.
That's right.
And limits their ability to do certain functions such as collectively bargain.
Yep.
Here's KSL News Radio's Adam Small with more details.
The referendum is expected to be on the November 2026 ballot, but the Deseret News and Hinckley Institute of Politics ran a new poll asking registered voters how they'd vote on it if the election were held today. 36% of people said they'd vote in favor of the referendum, 32% said they'd vote against it, and nearly one-third, 31% of people said they don't know how they'd vote on it.
So before we get to that poll, Holly, legislature passes the law.
Right.
The governor signs it into law. But the people, the unions got together and decided to gather signatures, I guess.
That's right.
And to put a referendum on the ballot for the people to say, do we really want this law in place?
That's right.
Is that sort of the mechanics of it?
Yeah, it is. And one of the things, if you remember, so to get a referendum on the ballot, you have to have 140,000 verified signatures, just a little bit more. So this Protect Utah Workers Coalition came together. They actually turned in over 300,000 signatures, far above the threshold they needed to make it on the ballot. And so this question will be on the ballot, but not in 2025. It won't be on the ballot until 2026. So I think what the poll numbers show us, right, with this division of 36% say they would is that support it?
Right, support the referendum, yes.
Right, and that 30% don't know. I mean, I think the issue we really are seeing is the next, year and 4 months will be spent on an education campaign, trying to get people to understand what it is, right? Maybe they don't know, right? This is something that impacts public workers, like teachers, but it's also firefighters, police officers, other people who do these collective bargaining agreements for pay.
On behalf of public employees.
On behalf of public employees.
Right.
That's
It's interesting, because the poll was whether or not you support the referendum, not necessarily the opposite of whether you support the law, because the referendum says do away with the law. I hope it's not going to be confusing, and I hope we're not making it confusing. I think we're doing just the opposite. But it's a fairly close split. 36% would support the referendum. In other words, don't support the law. 32% are against, and then a third really don't know, which means, like exactly what you just said, people need some education on this.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's interesting, too, even when they asked bipartisan affiliation, so Republicans are almost exactly evenly split between a third, right, of they support the referendum, they support the law, or they don't know, right? And so we're going to see this. So what we know is that there are organizations that are in favor of the law. One of those organizations is it's Americans for Prosperity, and Kevin Green is the head of that in the state of Utah. They support it, and so they're going to be doing an education campaign to get people to vote against the referendum. And then, of course, the Protect Utah Workers Coalition is going to be doing a campaign to get people to support the referendum.
What do you suppose got the legislature even interested in this particular issue? I don't recall it being controversial in the past, but I'll tell you, up on the Hill, when they were considering this law, there were a lot of teachers, public employees, like you say, law enforcement, fire, that were up there saying, hey, wait a minute, don't vote for this. But the legislature had something in mind.
Yes, and I think it's political, and I think that it really came as a result for some of the actions that the teachers union specifically had undertaken, and it made the legislature upset. And if you remember, in the last election cycle in 2024, there was confusion about language on the ballot, and this was something that the Utah Educators Association had said, look, this is really confusing, and they had filed a lawsuit, and they prevailed. And so it took a ballot question off the ballot, and I think it made the legislature unhappy.
So here's another question I have for you, Holly. The law was supposed to go into effect in July. It gets passed in February, let's say.
Right.
It's supposed to go into effect in July. They know that there's a referendum that's at least they're trying to gather signatures.
Right.
In anticipation of that, the lieutenant governor actually put the law on hold, which makes a tremendous amount of sense because we don't know whether it's going to go in place or not. But there is a pause on the law, as I understand it. Because we don't want, the law's good today, it's not good tomorrow, let's have it. But the voters are going to decide ultimately in 2026. I'm just wondering, usually I think of a judge as issuing an injunction, that somebody files a lawsuit and it goes, and the judge does that. It just seems, this seems so much more efficient. The lieutenant governor just put a hold on it.
So I think, so with the lieutenant governor, she did not put that hold on until there were enough signatures verified to say this is going to go on the ballot. This was not preemptively. This was after they had enough. They didn't have a complete count, but they had enough. They thought that they were going to get this on the ballot, and so she put this stay in place. There would have been, I guess, two ways to overturn it. One is that they didn't get enough signatures verified, and we know that that's not the case anymore. Another one is that the governor could actually issue a proclamation to put the law into effect, but I don't anticipate that happening either because we know for sure this question will be on the ballot next year, so it doesn't really make sense to say there's a prohibition on an collective bargaining for a year and 4 months, for example, and then we potentially could overturn it on the ballot in 2026. We just don't know, right? But there's a stay on the law now.
And so would you suppose that the proponents of the bill wrote in the language that said the bill would go into effect in July, knowing that there was going to be some because that seems like that was a very smart and fair thing to do.
It's a pretty typical enactment date. So there's a couple that are pretty common. In May, there's one, and then July 1st is another. It's very common because it's the beginning of the fiscal year. July 1st is the beginning of the fiscal year, and so because this has a fiscal impact with collective bargaining, I'm confident that there was nothing to do with a potential referendum or not.
And again, maybe I'm asking you unfair questions, but it's going to be on the November 2026 ballot.
Yeah.
There's some municipal elections this year.
That's right.
Is there some reason why they wouldn't have it on that one?
Actually, I can't remember the reason. There is a reason, but I can't remember what it is, why it's not on this year. It's something actually, I think, written into the law about why it has to take so long to be on the ballot.
More of a general election.
I think so. But right. I can't remember for sure.
That makes sense. So, yeah, we're looking at the poll. You said that Republicans are pretty equally divided. I suppose Democrats are more in favor of the referendum.
There's 50% of Democrats polled were in favor of the of the referendum. But even a fair number of Democrats are like, I don't know what this bill says,
Right.
or what this referendum says.
So you would expect that there's going to be a fair amount of publicity, or at least some people are going to be spending some money to educate voters on this for the 2026.
Yeah, and I think the poll might be a little early because if you look at this, if we're not talking about the election for a year and a half, a little bit less, you're probably not going to see a lot of push for about another year before you start to see a lot more education on this issue.
Okay, so to wrap it up, the law is passed. The law is on hold.
That's right.
There's a referendum. We don't see referendums very often.
Not that often.
And I don't want to just sort of confuse our listeners too much, but we have these ballot initiatives that come up once in a while to sort of, hey, let's put a bill or a law on the books. This is, hey, we're concerned about a particular law. The voters are saying, can we revisit this and let the voters weigh in on it?
Right.
Yeah. Legislature is must have known this was coming, and we'll see how that goes. It's going to be heard. It's be on the ballot, it looks like, in November 2026 because they do have the votes. When we come back after the break, it's going to be hot this weekend. In fact, it may set a record. Triple-digit temperatures are expected tomorrow. KSL meteorologist Kevin Eubank will join us.
Do you know how to tell if a clogged drain is something to worry about or not? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I understand it's annoying and inconvenient, but sometimes a clogged drain can be a sign there's a more serious issue with your sewer main line. If the drains in the lowest level of your home aren't draining, or you flush a toilet and it comes up somewhere else like a shower or a floor drain, I'm urging you to look at this as more than just an annoyance. The last thing I want you to experience is a sewer backup. If you're a homeowner experiencing any of these issues, the first step would be to snake the line to see if it's just a blockage, which one of our drain techs can do for only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
It's Julie from the Cache Valley Visitors Bureau inviting you to come celebrate summer in Logan. From nonstop festivals to super close outdoor adventures to the most charming historic downtown and great restaurants, it's all right here. Let's just stop for 1 second. I don't know why everyone who lives in Salt Lake thinks it takes 3 hours to get to Logan, but unless you're dragging a handcart, it will only take you 1 hour and 20 minutes, so just get in your car and get up here. You know we're Utah's heart of the arts. This week, live performances of Matilda the Musical, the professional Olyric Repertory Theater's inspiring musical Bright Star, plus they opened Sherlock Holmes, The Final Adventure. Wait, the swashbuckling Broadway hit The Scarlet Pimpernel hits the stage too. Good night! Free concerts every weekday at noon in the Tabernacle and free concerts and movies at the Outdoor Plaza. Mark your calendars for the Cache Valley Cruise-In Classic Car Show 4th of July weekend and a packed schedule of nonstop fun all summer long. ExploreLogan.com. ExploreLogan.com.
Hey Ryan, you remember that trip we took in our tent trailer down to Southern California?
Oh, that was the best.
Making memories with Paris RV. Hook up to the 2025 Forest River Rockwood 16 OTG for only $9,195 or $148 per month, zero down. Or the 2025 Highland Ridge Open Range 177 BH for only $14,995 or $171 per month, zero down. Or the 2026 Coachman RV Catalina Summit Series 7 134 BHX for only $14,995 or $171 per month, zero down.
Take your family out RVing with Paris RV.
Paris RV is your locally owned, family-run RV dealership. We strive hard to find the very best RVs for the price. With 4 locations, over 1,000 RVs in stock, 42 service bays, and 4 super parts stores. We're sure to help take your family on the best RV vacation. Check out our perfect family bunkhouse trailer, the 26BH, that sleeps 9 for $19,995 or $227 a month, zero down. Life is short. Enjoy it. North Murray, South Murray, Payson, and Pocatello. ParisRV.com.
If you've got a gas-powered engine, keep it running like new at every fill-up. Stable in-season protection is your engine's preventative medicine, cleaning and protecting the entire fuel system in season. In outdoor power equipment, prevent gum and varnish buildup that could cause a rough or non-running engine. For cars and trucks, increase fuel efficiency and power by removing deposits, ensuring your engine's long-term health. Stable outperforms the competition in independent lab testing. So at every fill-up, start with Stable.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. It's the Sleep Number 4th of July sale. Save over $600 on our King P5 smart bed, our lowest price of the season. Limited time. All Sleep Number smart beds offer temperature solutions for your best sleep. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
It's on the street. The heat is on.
The heat is on, but my microphone was not. It's going to be a hot weekend, and we're expected, Holly, to have our first 100-degree day tomorrow. I don't know whether that's early or late or
right on
sets
time.
a record or what, but we do have with us KSL meteorologist Kevin Eubank to talk to us about that. Kevin, and let's say that we do have 100 degrees tomorrow, which would be June 19th. Is that early, late, or about average?
No, that's early. Our typical first 100 in Salt Lake happens the week of the 4th of July. So generally around the 5th or 6th of the month of July. So we're definitely early, and we're forecasting a high tomorrow of 102, and that's going to break the daily record of 101. So not only is it really early for our first 100, it's extra hot for the day.
That's not encouraging to me. So how long can we expect? Is there a streak of 100 days, or when will it maybe drop off that record-setting day tomorrow?
No, listen, from your lips to heaven's ears, it's one day. That's all we get. So this is a really weird pattern. Typically, our swings in the summertime come because of cold fronts. So we'll get really warm and windy ahead of a cold front, then we drop and get really cold behind a cold front. Usually those cold fronts come with rain and thunder and lightning and wind. Well, this has everything but the rain. So we pick up the south winds tomorrow. We get really, really warm. We hit the record. And then we fall back to the 90s on Friday. And then we have a cold front come through that brings in cold Canadian air, and it drops us into the 70s for Sunday. So we're going to have a 25-degree temperature swing in the high temperatures from the 100s to the 70s just in a number of days. So it's a crazy ride for sure.
You said, Kevin, that we usually wait for the first or second week of July before we get 100 degrees. Is June 19th a record early day for triple digits?
No, that's a great question. Early June is the record. And so the first week in June is when the earliest 90-degree day that we've ever had. Last year, it was June 13th. So we're a little earlier in the sense of, year to year. But one thing I've noticed here in Salt Lake City in the last several years is we've almost that's not an official meteorological term, but it feels like we've season shift or we've climate shifted. And what I mean by that is it's like we're off 30 days. Our Junes feel like Julys. Our Septembers feel like August. It just gets shifted away. We don't really start getting the snow until we're into December, even January, where before it was, November. So it just feels like we've shifted a little bit, and that would make sense in the sense of why we're dealing with some really warm temperatures in June. And we're hoping this year we can get some monsoon rains. We've been so dry. We desperately need the water. The problem is those often come with lightning, and with it being as tinder dry and fire danger such a concern, it's one of those, do you want it or do you not want it? Because we want the rain, but sometimes it comes with more problems than it brings.
Well, thanks for joining us, Kevin. We really appreciate you talking to us this morning. That was KSL meteorologist Kevin Eubank. So I personally will spend most of the day tomorrow inside and then maybe do my outside work on Sunday if I have to.
It's interesting that he mentions the 1 month shift because it got me thinking about something. And I've talked to our listeners before, but I've served on the National Ski Patrol for 40 years. And I remember when I started, that I worked at the time at Park City, and we would always host, they called it America's Opening, which was the first World Cup race of the year.
Wow.
And it was always before Thanksgiving.
Right.
Now it's difficult to, some of our resorts aren't open the week before Thanksgiving.
That's right.
I remember a year, Holly, when we were open on Halloween.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now, I remember in the last couple of years, some resorts thinking we got to get open by Christmas because that's a big weekend for us.
Right.
Thank goodness for snowmaking.
Right, that's right. Well, so we've actually been talking about heat a little more, and we know that there are physical impacts to our health when we have hot weather. But I saw an article today on KUER talking about the mental impacts, the impacts to our mental health from hot weather, and this was really interesting to me. There's a professor of psychiatry at the University of Utah, and he's pointing to some research that says that people during hot weather, especially if you've got a string of 98 degrees or above, a string of days with 98 degrees or above, the people had increased rates of suicidal ideation. They had worsening mood symptoms. They had worsening psychotic symptoms, worsening manic symptoms, and more substance abuse during these hot days.
You know, I'll bet if you ran the same study during the winter when we have those inversions, you would have some of the same results.
Yes,
I mean,
and certainly that is something we've talked about in Utah before.
Right, which makes you think how. I mean, sometimes we joke that people just make small talk about the weather all the time, but it affects a lot more than just your relative comfort when you walk from your office to your car.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, I think we joke in Utah, at least I have joked about it for years, that we don't really have a spring or a fall anymore. Sometimes we do, but it feels like we go from, gosh, it's 39 degrees in the morning to now it's 90 degrees in the afternoon in the spring, and then vice versa when you head in the fall. But this, again, these mental health impacts, they actually can be quite serious. And there's an additional study that says when they're looking at impacts of heat, they really don't take mental health into account very often.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, but they should. I mean, it's something that, if it's causing people to have that level of stress and I know, 100 degrees, it's no fun to get outside. And I think people really have a hard time sleeping when it's really, really hot. And that can affect your whole day. It can affect a lot of what you're doing.
Yeah, I can't sleep when it's hot. One additional thing that actually is at least somewhat related, our Utah legislature during the last legislative session talked about a bill that would have been a code red. So in the winter, we have code blues. When it gets below a certain temperature level, then there are additional things that happen for our friends and neighbors experiencing homelessness. And so what this bill would have done is say once we hit a certain threshold of heat in the summer, and I think it was over 100 degrees, it might have been like 105, that there would be then additional facilities that could be opened and say, you can come in for cooling. That bill did not pass, but it is something I think that the community needs to be aware of when it gets really, really hot.
Yeah. And another thing to think about, the final thing to think about, Rocky Mountain Power is encouraging people to be mindful of how they use energy during peak heat because you've got air conditioning, you've got other things going. KSL News Radio's Adam Small weighed in on that.
The company says doing little things like running your dishwasher, dryer, or other major appliances in the morning or at night can not only potentially save you money, but take stress off the grid. Rocky Mountain Power spokesperson Dave Eskelson tells KSL air conditioning unfortunately takes up a lot of energy. So if you can stay comfortable, he says try setting your thermostat a little higher than normal.
We suggest starting with 78 degrees and see if that is workable. And to the extent you can, everybody doing a little will make a difference.
Eskelson says they don't expect any major problems with the grid, but they say they will work as quickly as possible to resolve any outages if they happen. They say peak demand for power is between about 3 in the afternoon to about 8 o'clock at night. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
78 degrees to me, and this is a position of privilege, I realize it, that's hot.
Yeah, I think it would be difficult to sleep with 78 degrees. Maybe during the day, you're working or doing something, you could have it up a little bit high like that. But I mean, we've got to start saving energy, and it is really hard on the grid. Like he said, the hours between 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. are the hardest times. And I have 2 electric cars, and we don't even think about plugging them in during that time because we've lost all of our power. We've blown the circuit. You know what I mean?
Right.
The grid's having a hard enough time. Our house is having a hard enough time. The air conditioner's running. Then you plug in a car. It just adds to the stress of it. It's, you've got to be careful
Yeah.
about all these things and decide what your priorities are. And you can charge your car during the evening.
I personally think air conditioning is one of the greatest inventions the world has ever seen.
I agree. And I remember the days when we all had a lot of people still do because they were so effective, the swamp coolers.
Right.
You
Yeah.
could just stand underneath that thing and appreciate it. But in Utah's dry climate, those things worked so well.
Oh, my goodness. One quick thing before we go to break. I was pregnant during a record-setting summer, and I lived underneath my swamp cooler so I could just stay cool.
Stay with us on Inside Sources. We'll be right back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, a wildfire in Dixie National Forest has now burned over 4,000 acres. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
The fire has spread to over 4,700 acres. The National Forest Service tells KSL.com the heat combined with dry conditions and wind have allowed the fire to spread quickly. The fire was originally only 10 acres a week ago. The Forest Service says they believe the fire was started by a lightning strike, but the area was too difficult for firefighters to reach.
Firefighters predict winds will change direction today, helping slow the fire and allowing firefighters to start containment. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Fewer Americans filed claims for unemployment benefits last week.
Initial jobless claims fell to 245,000 altogether last week, and while that's 5,000 fewer than the week before, it reflects ongoing weakening within the labor market. Economists say the weekly jobless number is beginning to show the long-term impact of tariffs and a resulting pullback in corporate spending.
ABC's Jim Ryan says the numbers were in line with analysts' expectations. President Trump was asked this past hour how he's going to respond to the attacks between Israel and Iran. He said, no one knows, and Iran should have come to the negotiating table earlier. Your money at this moment, the Dow doesn't seem to be affected by the uncertainty between Iran and Israel, as the Dow's up 138 points this morning to 42,354. Coming up, record heat tomorrow, then a big cool down. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Selling or buying a home, you're losing a lot of money if you're not using the Bank Buster loan. This is Rod with the Save Right Realtor team at Realty Path. Nothing compares to the Bank Buster loan. Home sellers, you get a quicker sell and a higher net price. How? The buyer of your home gets a rate as low as 4.75% with a payment that saves them hundreds every month. The ultra-low Bank Buster rate is not a seller concession that comes out of your pocket. It's all thanks to our affiliate lender, Save Right Mortgage, and their Bank Buster loan. Hire the Save Right Realtors when you sell or buy a home, and you automatically get a preferred lender and a Bank Buster loan. Buyers, you can start with a rate in the ones. Don't lose tens of thousands of your hard-earned money. Sell and buy your home with a Bank Buster loan. Call 801-APPROVE or visit SaveRight.com.
Attention RVers! In 57 years, Motorsportsland has never had a sale like this before. We've got over 100 new models coming in and our lots are already almost full. We've got to clear out inventory fast, so we've selected over 100 new travel trailers, fifth wheels, and toy haulers to sell to you at or below dealer cost. Like our 2024 Encore Venue off-road travel trailer, MSRP at $30,000, normally priced at $25,000, dealer cost at $22,400, and this week only priced to you for below $17,000 with amazing financing options. Or our 2024 28-foot Stealth Toy Hauler fifth wheel, MSRP at $99,330, normally priced at $83,500, this week only $67,743. Save more than ever before on your dream RV. But these deals are disappearing quick, so visit a Motorsportsland RV Center today.
Let Motorsportsland help you get away.
motorsportsland.com.
When was the last time your vacation was living the art of adventure? Discover it in Cedar City, Utah. Towering red rocks, epic trails, summer events, and world-class drama at the Tony Award-winning Utah Shakespeare Festival starting June 17th with Macbeth, Antony and Cleopatra, and more. Marvel at nature's masterpieces with just a short drive to Zion, Bryce Canyon, Cedar Breaks, and Kolob Canyons. Discover Utah's earliest artists at the Parowan Gap Petroglyph site. Head up to Bryan Head for chairlift rides that deliver endless high-elevation views. Wildflower Meadows, topped off with ATV and downhill biking trails. Be starstruck by the skies at Cedar Breaks National Monument. Browse Cedar City's unique shops and indulge in savory bites. Come experience the art of adventure around every turn in Cedar City. Start planning your vacation right now at visitcedarcity.com.
Traffic and weather together now, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Tito Nani.
Well, that crash from earlier on southbound I-15 at 123rd South in Draper is now in the cleanup stages. The two outer left lanes look to be back open as the accident has made its way off to the shoulder. Residual delays do linger back towards 106 South in Sandy. Other than that, all other Valley freeways look to be in great shape at this hour. While you're planning your day, plan for comfort too with the Good Feet store. Find the location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Tito Nani, KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we have a roller coaster of a forecast ahead. 93 today, but then record heat at 102 tomorrow. Now that heat will be short-lived though, with the temperatures down into the 70s by Sunday. Right now, it is pretty warm for itself. It is 77 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
You know, it all started on October 7th when Hamas attacked Israel and took hostages. Since that time, Israel has leveled much of Gaza and destroyed much of Hamas, which is backed by Iran. It then bombed Lebanon and Yemen to counter Hezbollah and Houthi militia, which are also backed by Iran. Now it seems, Holly, that they're attacking the source itself and not the proxies anymore. And it started this latest conflict, which is quite serious. It's only been going on for about 4 or 5 days now. It seems like it's been longer than that, but it started with Israel bombing what appeared to be a very targeted source of the nuclear capabilities that Iran was having, and it was clear to everyone that Iran was within, I don't know, weeks, months, years of getting a nuclear weapon. Right. And I think Israel was saying, look, we don't have time to waste on that, and we don't have time for the United States to jump in and do their negotiations or whatever they were going to do, which would have maybe allowed Iran to continue their progress.
Right, enriching uranium or whatever. Yeah, and I think, Netanyahu in Israel has been really blunt in saying he will not be stopping until all nuclear capabilities are eliminated. But we also have the U.S. on the very first day said, we weren't really involved. Maybe there was some intelligence sharing. We now know that there was for sure, but there are really some additional things that are continuing to unfold. And President Trump has made several comments about what's happening in the U.S. involvement.
President Trump is weighing his options, declaring, quote, "We now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran," a claim that departs from previous U.S. statements that Israel's offensive was done without U.S. involvement. The president also demanding the regime's unconditional surrender, and then delivering this warning. We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He's an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out, kill, at least not for now. The Iranian leader responding on social media. The battle begins.
So really, there are two questions, and maybe more than that. But one, how does this end? And does it end with the Iranian leader being taken out and the regime sort of collapsing? And two, what level of involvement does the United States have? I mean, Trump is leaning more and more toward getting involved in this. And I think that's making a lot of people around the world in general nervous about this, because wars in the Middle East are always problematic. I mean, they're
Right.
problematic no matter where they are. But in the Middle East, that's really an area where you would hope, maybe think, I don't tip my hand here, that cooler hands would prevail as some cooler heads would prevail.
So I think one of the things we need to remember is that with the president saying we know where the supreme leader is, he's an easy target, he's safe for now. One of the things I've seen across social channels this morning is that Israel also knows where he is, and they are targeting that place right now with missiles. We'll see. But the Ayatollah came out and said when President Trump said, we want unconditional surrender right now. Basically, he said, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to surrender. And if the U.S. gets involved, we're going to strike U.S. military bases is one of the things that the Supreme Leader said. So this morning on the South Lawn of the White House, in fact, just like an hour ago, a reporter asked if the U.S. was actually going to join the war officially between Iran and Israel. And the president said, I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do, which can be telling, right?
Right.
But I think one of the other issues that we're seeing is there's a really big split among Republicans on whether the U.S. should go to war, and it is not the president who gets to declare that the U.S. is at war. That is a congressional act.
And I think that's going to be ramped up, at least the clarity of that with Congress fairly soon, because they don't want there to be any confusion as to who makes that decision. Let me ask you this. One theory is that the United States has a particular bomb that Israel doesn't have, and that's these sort of bunker busting bomb.
Right.
Some 30-ton thing that can get into the ground and destroy what most countries would have in terms of their nuclear arsenal, their
ground
nuclear
penetrating.
Right. And the United States has that. This is maybe a dumb question, but if the U.S. only gets involved for that limited purpose of dropping that bomb, are we in with both feet? Or is it like, okay, we took out the nuclear capability, let's back off now? I think Iran's going to see that as...
Look, that's a political question that is above my pay grade. I don't know the answer to that question, actually, but I do think it's interesting that we, like I said, we have this real split among Republicans. So some very strong Trump supporters who are saying, absolutely not will the U.S. go to war with Iran. Yeah. Absolutely not. And yet you have a president who's saying, I don't know, we might.
Yeah, and we're looking at what appears to be a significant amount of bombing in Tehran right now, at Tehran. And the president has said that he knows where the supreme leader is. I don't know that anybody knows where the supreme leader is at any given moment in time, but certainly the Israelis had some significant intelligence when they made those attacks not long ago, because they targeted nuclear scientists, nuclear facilities. They targeted things that you had to have a tremendous amount of intelligence to get that particular information.
They took out some of the targeted leaders of Iran, and including these scientists. Some of them, the attacks were so precise, they sent a missile through a building into a particular room where a person was. Like, it wasn't broad, it was very targeted. So I don't know, from an intelligence perspective, does it tip our hand when we tell Iran, hey, we know where your leader is and we're coming after him, or maybe Israel's coming after him? I don't know, but I do know that there are things that the general public, of which I am one, we don't know all the details.
And another question I think a lot of people are nervous about is this: if the U.S. jumps in and attacks Iran, who backs Iran? I mean, does Russia come in and say, hey, wait a minute?
Russia has already weighed in on Iran's side, yep.
And that's a huge problem. Because then you're talking about,
global nuclear war.
Good heavens. And I think what
I don't know.
I think what the president's trying to say right now is, look, Iran, we don't want you to have nuclear capabilities. We don't want you to have a bomb. But negotiations to get that done are passed, and he's saying, hey, you had the chance to talk. Talk's over. Now we just want, he calls it unconditional surrender, which I'm not sure what that means. Surrender what?
And we know that they took out a lot of the leadership. They left the Ayatollah, but they took out a lot of the senior leadership. So Robert O'Brien, who was Trump's foreign policy advisor, I think, national security advisor, first term, he said yesterday in an interview with the Deseret News that if these attacks continued more than a couple of weeks, he thought the whole regime would collapse. And he didn't even mention the possibility of the Ayatollah being taken out.
And if the regime collapses, maybe that is the
Well, then there's a power vacuum, right? And then it's
Right.
always the question, well, who steps in, right? But the hope is, like in Syria, you have a chance to get a more democratic government put in place and one that's more willing to negotiate for peace. I do think it's interesting where you just said, the president said the time to negotiate was a week ago, and these attacks from Israel started right before the U.S. was going to negotiate. So, I mean, he's saying if we could have retroactively negotiated before these attacks start, but we were scheduled for talks within a couple of days.
Yeah, and I think another question, I wish we had more time to get into this, is to what extent does Israeli leader Netanyahu have the permission or the backing of the United States, or is he working in a vacuum? Because some of our State Department officials early on said, hey, what's happening there, we had nothing to do with. And then Trump saying, I was on board with this.
And I gave him permission to do this, but not this.
Permission to do this, right, but not that, yeah. It's happening literally as we're talking now. We may have some updates on that later. We'll be right back.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to soda, just amazing.
I started on soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Keeping your engines healthy means protecting them in season and out. Experts trust Stable to do that, and third-party testing confirms it. Stable is the industry leader in preventing fuel-related issues, no matter if you use it in your car, boat, or outdoor power equipment. In season or out, at every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable.
Progressive knows you've got enough to worry about in life.
Hi, it's your life again. Feel like another year is just slipping away? Yeah, remember all those New Year's resolutions you made? You still haven't finished the first book. Just 19 more to go. I mean, if we're being honest, it wasn't a very realistic goal. Have you ever considered that you intentionally self-sabotage? So what's that about?
So let Progressive protect your home and auto, because you've got enough to worry about. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
We're in St. George, and Jenny found a home online that she really loved.
And then we went through it with our realtor. He started pointing out things that were going to just lead us to a money pit.
We would have been in this house $50,000 or more in repairs.
With the help of our realtor, we were able to find a brand new home for $100,000 less than what we would have been paying for one that was 12 years older. We thought we were going to save money not using a realtor, but in the end, our realtor actually saved us over $150,000.
Let an experienced realtor guide you. Go to myrealtorstory.com.
The power of we believes in you. It advocates for you. It completes your circle. It makes sure you have the strongest circle possible. And with Intermountain Health in yours, you'll always have the care you need to live the healthiest life possible. That's the power of we. Intermountain Health.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Tell me about it. Did you have any idea that was going on?
None. I mean, you saw Derek at the game last night, too. Did you have a clue?
No, but you know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do. Kids hear first about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
It can be hard to tell sometimes, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, bullying, violence, anything, you need to tell an adult. Mom or me, a teacher, coach, school counselor, someone you know and trust.
Dad, no kid is gonna tell an adult about that kind of stuff.
I get it, but if we don't know, we can't help. Speaking up about a problem, that's what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Join Mike Stevens of Capital Wealth Advisors for Retire Right Radio, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. That's Retire Right Radio with Mike Stevens, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m.
The new Inside Sources.
We're following a story from Mesa, Colorado that began, Holly, a couple of weeks ago when a 19-year-old college student, a University of Utah nursing student, was detained by Colorado authorities there for a traffic citation. Caroline Diaz-Goncalves was detained for a traffic stop. She's now sitting in a Colorado detention center, at least she was as of a couple of days ago, on issues involving her presence in this country. And it appears that she was here under what we called sort of the Dreamers.
Right.
And she's been here since she was 7 years old. So 12 years, she's a college student, gets stopped for, I don't know, a taillight violation. It was a fairly minor violation.
She was initially pulled over for following too close behind a semi. So she gives her license and registration and all of that. And when she is let go, she is literally pulled over a few minutes later and then detained by ICE. And she is now in an ICE detention facility in Aurora, Colorado. So one of the things that has come out after this is, first of all, she had a couple of days where she couldn't even contact her family. And now a family friend describes that every time she talks to her family, which she has been able to do, she's been in tears, right? This is, again, somebody who has been allowed to be here under the Dreamer Act and is attending the University of Utah. She has no criminal record. And one of the things that is, I think, disturbing about this case is the Colorado sheriff said that the information that ICE used to pull her over came from an encrypted signal chat where they were sharing information that was supposed to be about drug interdiction, but they used it for immigration enforcement. The Colorado Mesa County Sheriff has pulled all of his officers off of that chat because they said this is actually in violation of Colorado law, but that is why she was pulled over by ICE.
Then you would expect that's why she should be released by Colorado authorities. We call that in the legal terms fruit of the poisonous tree. I mean, if they gathered information through an improper source, and it seems like they're almost admitting that they improperly tapped into this data for a drug investigation, found out information about her. Now she's being detained for what appears to be a very minor traffic violation, and
she wasn't even cited.
Right, yeah, she
didn't even give a citation for that.
Hey, don't follow so closely, let her go, and then they get more information. They decide to pull her over later. She had a pending asylum claim with immigration officials. Like you say, she was originally stopped and just given a warning from the sheriff's office for following a semi-trailer too closely. Then after they got more information, they decided to just pull her over and detain her for no reason except the new information. It wasn't a new traffic violation.
So part of what came out and what we're learning right now, and it's still an unfolding story, but part of what we learned is that the initial officer who pulled her over for following the semi too closely, he actually is on body cam, and there's images of him asking her, well, where are you from? And she said, oh, well, I'm from Utah. And he said, well, where are you born? And she said, he actually said, you have kind of an accent. So where were you born? And she said, oh, I can never remember the city, but in Brazil. I was born in Brazil. And he goes, "Oh, okay, that's interesting." Right. But it was that information that that ended up being used.
she was born there, and she moved from there when she was
7 right?
years
She
old.
came with her parents. They came legally. It sounds like they overstayed a visa, but they have an asylum claim in. They're following the process to be here legally, all of those things. But she is a dreamer, right? Which means she had protected legal status.
Yeah, she had the expectation that
That's
she
right.
would not be stopped and something like this happened to her. And it I'm sure that she was going through the process, but there's so many people, and this one's really interesting to me, Holly, because we haven't had one hit close to home like this. It's always somewhere else and somebody else. I mean, and this article that I'm looking at from the news has her picture, and she's just a happy young woman studying nursing at the University of Utah. I mean, talk about somebody who's just in the wrong place at the wrong time and just following a truck too closely. Suddenly she's been detained, and as I understand it, she's been detained since June 5th, so almost 2 weeks.
Yeah, and that's a concern for sure, right? So, again, we're seeing from Colorado, the Colorado authorities. This is a statement from the Mesa County Sheriff's that I'm seeing online. It says, through our administrative investigation, we've learned that the federal representatives within the communication group, this is on the Signal chat, which has been in the news before, began using the material collected for drug interdiction efforts to extrapolate immigration information for the purposes of ICE enforcement. This use of information is contradictory to Colorado law and was initially intended for the purpose of reducing illegal drug trafficking in Colorado.
Yeah, so you wonder why somebody doesn't just say, turn her loose. I mean, why continue to hold her? Her attorney said this, there's a gap there. How was it that immigration officials learned of her presence at that time, at that place, and how were they able to take her into custody? I'm sorry, he's an immigration attorney who's not representing her, but he was asked about the circumstances during an interview. This is Jonathan's show. I mean, gathering information wrongfully, taking somebody into custody arguably wrongfully, and again, I'm just an attorney, but it seems to me that what's happened here is a real problem. And ICE doesn't need this. Immigration doesn't need another situation like this where people are going, wait a minute, how far are we taking this?
Well, except they have quotas now, right? Yeah. So they're trying to arrest 3,000 people a day, and so from the broader deportation picture and detention picture, I think what we're seeing is more and more of these types of cases, right? People who are trying to follow the process legally, they're showing up to their immigration appointments, their asylum appointments, and they're being arrested on the way in, or they're finding out that their case is dismissed and then they're being arrested on the way out of court. I mean, we have some issues.
Yeah, one of the ironies of this 3,000 people a day deportation quota is that the administration has done a pretty good job of sealing up the border. So we're not getting the numbers coming in that would have given us the ability to deport 3,000 people a day. We're doing it. What instead ICE officials are doing is going after people that are here. You hear them sitting down by the Home Depots waiting for individuals to show up. They're not targeting the people that the administration has always said it's going to target, the murderers, the sex offenders, the criminals,
human traffickers.
Right.
And that's where we have no disagreement, right? There's nobody in the country that disagrees that these people should not be coming into our country, and even they have an opportunity to have due process. But back to this young University of Utah student, she actually is on a scholarship. It's actually a Dreamer scholarship established for students like her that are here who came in the country as a child, but she had to go through the process, right, to apply for this. It's kind of a big deal, and that organization, the Dream.us, is the one who provided this scholarship to her. They've made a statement about this and said, is this really the path forward? Does detaining young students make America safer? Absolutely not.
Yeah. We do have a quote from her lawyer, Jonathan Hyman, who raised questions about this, and he said this: "This is unusual and borders on unconstitutional action. No warrant for her arrest was provided, and ICE detained her without requesting identification. Had they done that, I would have assumed that they would have learned that she wasn't here illegally, that she was under some level of protection, and she had been applying." I mean, due process has just been turned on its head lately as we deal with a lot of these people who are here, entered illegally, let's admit it, but then have applied for asylum process and are doing what they think is appropriate.
Right.
I mean, this is a kid who's in nursing school.
Right.
We need
and
people
again,
like that.
I mean, and she's lived most of her life in Utah. But let me ask you this legal question. So she's been detained. They didn't have a warrant. She's been there for 2 weeks. What do you think the process looks like for her from a legal perspective?
Well, that's what really concerns me about the Colorado authorities is by what authority are they still holding her? Now, I'm assuming if it's in Aurora, Colorado, there must be a federal detention facility.
There is.
We don't have one here in Utah. We don't have any federal detention facilities. The feds contract with state authorities, usually county sheriffs, to hold their inmates. But so maybe the Colorado state authorities are saying, hey, we don't have a dog in this fight right now. We can only tell ICE not to hold her any longer, and maybe they'll listen, maybe they won't. But I'm not answering your question, but right now she's in federal custody. The state is saying it was a mistake. They got the information illegally. She shouldn't be in custody, and the feds are saying mind your own business, so to speak. But I mean, I would hope, and maybe this will happen sooner rather than later, that cooler heads prevail and that she'll be released and that there will at least be some level of due process.
Yeah, agreed, right, that she has an opportunity to do that. When we come back, we'll have more fun things to talk about.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, Utahns are weighing in on how they'd vote on a referendum that seeks to undo a new state law. The law would ban public employee unions from bargaining for pay and working conditions. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has details.
The referendum's expected to be on the November 2026 ballot, but the Deseret News and Hinckley Institute of Politics ran a new poll asking registered voters how they'd vote on it if the election were held today. 36% of people said they'd vote in favor of the referendum, 32% said they'd vote against it, and nearly one-third, 31% of people said they don't know how they'd vote on it.
The law was supposed to go into effect in July, but the lieutenant governor temporarily put it on pause. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The U.S. Supreme Court has upheld a law in Tennessee that prevents gender-related surgeries for minors. President of the Human Rights Campaign, Kelly Robinson, is upset by the decision.
What they are saying is that trans people do not fall within the sex discrimination classification, that you can legally discriminate against trans people.
The 6-3 decision says the Tennessee ban does not violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Teton County, Wyoming has been named the world's first dark sky county. The title typically goes to parks, towns, and nature preserves. Dark sky areas have little to no light pollution and have extremely clear views of the stars and the other phenomenon in the sky. It comes after a decade of work to reduce light pollution. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 113 points to 42,329. Coming up, we've got record-setting heat, and it's warming up today, too. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Looking for reliable home services you can actually count on? I've got just the team for you. Mountain Home Services. They've been serving Utah since 1954 with honest, upfront pricing and zero hidden fees. Plus, they back every job with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. With summer heating up, now's the time to get your AC in shape. Mountain Home Services delivers fast, expert air conditioning service to keep your home cool and comfortable. And don't forget, they also handle electrical and plumbing work with the same trusted care. And here's the best part. KSL listeners get exclusive limited-time specials, but you have to call and ask. These deals won't last, so don't miss your chance to save. Call 801-543-2222 today and tell them KSL sent you. That's 801-543-2222 or visit mountainhomeservices.com. Get the service you need and the deal you deserve.
Citizens, since we each upgraded to Xfinity in our homes, the Wi-Fi has been booming. It's fair to say our town has officially become a boomtown.
Mayor, will I be able to drop into multiplayer gaming battles with low lag?
The lag won't be an issue, but your questionable skills may be.
And what if I
have hundreds of devices on the Wi-Fi. Purely hypothetical.
Seems like a lot, but sure, hundreds of devices all booming together with the Xfinity Gateway. Yes, friends and neighbors, with Xfinity, the Wi-Fi is booming.
The Wi-Fi isn't the only thing that's booming. Now get the most reliable Wi-Fi and our best-in-class equipment for one consistent price for 5 years guaranteed. All in. Plus, get unlimited data included and no annual contract. All with the 5-year price guarantee from Xfinity. Visit Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Restrictions apply. Not available in all areas. New residential customers only. Select plans only. Xfinity Gateway with xFi Complete required for unlimited data except in certain areas. Most reliable Wi-Fi based on Open Signal Awards USA. Fixed Broadband Experience Report, August 2024. Actual speeds vary.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Jane has 150,000 miles on her truck, and she's proud of that. Jane's secret? AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help her find the right parts. Jane's brother Josh only cares that his car starts and goes, but when it doesn't, he also goes to AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help with free services. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Tito Nani.
I-15 is currently wide open going both directions between Ogden and the point of the mountain. We still have great speeds on Bangerter Highway going both north and south. It appears we still have some slowdowns as you head east through South Weber Canyon just before the I-84 exit ramp as the construction in that area continues. Are you fighting a sewer line surprise, or has your barbecue gas line gone rogue? Utah Utility Pro tackles all your plumbing nightmares. Expert repairs, fast service, UtahUtilityPro.com. In the KSL Traffic Center, I'm Tito Nani.
KSL weather now. We should get up to 93 degrees today, but then it really cranks up on Thursday with a predicted record high of 102 in Salt Lake City. But by Saturday, the temperatures start dropping down into the 70s by Sunday. Right now, it's 81 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So, Greg, it's probably a bit of a generational thing, but TikTok is in the news again because tomorrow, June 19th, is supposed to be the day that the ban on TikTok goes into effect. It's the third time that President Donald Trump has moved this date, and he says he's probably going to extend it, and it'll go for another 90 days. So we actually are joined in studio by Caitlin, our producer, to talk about TikTok a little bit and tell us, do people care? How many people, how do you make money on TikTok?
Well, yeah, so that's kind of the impact of this whole thing. And, I went down with the ship when the first, what day was it? Like the 19th of January. It was like counting down to midnight and TikTok was going to go dark. And I doom scrolled the longest I have ever doom scrolled in my entire life the day that happened. And I watched it go down. It froze. It glitched out. We got this weird notification the next day that President Trump, kind of helped bring TikTok back. I don't remember the exact message, but it was such an interesting thing. They didn't even give us a full day without TikTok. And after that point, I was kind of like, I don't even want this app anymore. That just was so overwhelming. But this is the third time we've seen an extension. And, the impact overall is that there are many people who rely on income on TikTok. So there's, people who
but
are...
how does that happen? I don't understand.
Okay, I can give you a small explanation.
I'm not on TikTok, but I'm going to. I assume one of these days. But I don't understand. You post pictures of your dog running around.
Well,
and somebody pays you for
there's
that?
actually a lot of ways on all social media platforms, but TikTok specifically. You can you can get accepted into the TikTok Creator Fund, which I think you have to have I can't remember the exact follower count, but you have to get a certain amount of followers and reach a certain amount of views, and you get paid essentially for your views. One of the biggest ways people make money are through brand deals.
By TikTok, though.
This is, that's TikTok directly, but then if you have a following, you can get brand deals and get paid for those. You can also make content for other people. There's a lot of ways that you can do it on all social platforms, but TikTok is a big one, and it's continuing to grow. And so this back and forth has caused confusion, but I actually don't know if people are really worried about it anymore because it keeps getting pushed.
Right.
So that's where I'm at. I don't make money off of TikTok, but I've definitely been in the creator world for quite some time, and I kind of scaled back my use after all of that as well.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And can you remind us? Do you remember why do we have a ban?
Well, Greg, can you help me with
this
one?
Yes, I can help you with that. So, right,
I know, but you'll explain it better.
Yeah, absolutely. So this happened. Actually, Donald Trump in his first administration said, "I don't like TikTok.
Right.
It's Chinese owned. Let's do something about it." But he didn't. It actually happened during the Biden administration, where Congress passed a law that would require TikTok to divest itself of Chinese ownership by the date Caitlin indicated, January 19th, which fortunately or unfortunately allowed the new administration to come in. So TikTok was supposed to say, okay, we're not Chinese owned anymore. Now TikTok's kind of always said we're not really Chinese owned, but they didn't get a new buyer. January 19th was coming up. They didn't get a new buyer. They were still arguably Chinese owned. Trump had then sort of softened his position on TikTok, and even during the election, he told some of his younger voters, hey, don't worry about TikTok. I got your back here. I think there's a way we can save this. So he didn't exactly save it, but he gave it a breath of fresh air, another breather. Well, and he said, I'm January 19th is off. Well, let's come back in 3 months, which would have been April 19th. Now he's saying, let's come back in 3 months. The next one's coming. And so now he's going to past June 19th. We'll probably move it to September 19th now.
So to me, this looks like just what we have seen with the tariffs, right? It's like they're on, they're off. They're technically on, but there's a pause on implementation. And I think to your point, Caitlin, this makes it uncertain for people who are on this platform. But look, we have to be honest about how many people are using TikTok right now, and from our perspective, right, we kind of do news stories and stuff. We know that now there's some new research out of Reuters just yesterday that say that more than half of the people in the United States are getting their news from social media. So that's not all TikTok. But if you look at generationally under 30, that's where they get the majority of their news.
And I guess the fear was that in as much as it was controlled had Chinese ownership, that the Chinese government was getting information about American youth through their algorithms, saying, okay, this is what people are looking at, this is what they're trending toward, and maybe we can influence some of what they're seeing and whatnot. And so there's always this fear and paranoia when it deals with the United States and China. And it goes both ways, but I think that's really what was at the core
China
of this.
has all of our information on everything, and TikTok is one of the ways they got it.
Right.
One thing I just wanted to say, two notes on that. It's actually funny because you may not remember this, but anyone who was on TikTok around the time of the January 19th, they actually moved to a Chinese app called Red Note that was like China's version of TikTok. And it was just kind of funny how Americans just kind of didn't care about that privacy issue because they went to the complete, like the direct source of the concern. But also just with what you said about getting your news on social media, there are so many independent journalists and just journalists altogether on TikTok speaking directly to people. And it is very big because I took a social media break for a couple of months after that ban because I was overwhelmed with it all. And then, I get on it from time to time now, and they are very quick. It is very quick information. People on this, at locations reporting live from these situations. And, that's what we do here, but it's just right in front of, it's in your hand all the time. And TikTok is big for this.
It really is big. And I'm looking at this report. This is actually a BBC report talking about the Reuters study, but they say, so podcaster Joe Rogan, right? He's a well-known personality. 22% of the entire U.S. population told these surveyors that they had come across news or commentary from him in the previous 7 days. Like in a week, a quarter of the U.S. population had seen content from Joe Rogan.
Yeah, no.
Wild.
That's it's very true. And, I have my mixed feelings about TikTok because there is a reason why everyone is on it and why the U.S. wants ownership. It's because their algorithm is doing something different. And I don't know if they've figured out what that is because it's different from Facebook, Instagram, even YouTube. A lot of creators, I mean, if you're a creator and you're listening to this, I think you need to diversify where you put your content, just number one. But that's always,
you're about as media savvy as anybody I know. Do you feel compromised when you're on TikTok? I mean, do you limit certain things you do because of this fear, this change?
No, I'm kind of like what Holly said. They already have my information. If they're going to take it, is how I feel about it. I don't think maybe I should care. And someone may be listening to this and be like, get off of there. But I have reduced my use as well. But no, I don't feel compromised, but maybe I will one day. I don't know. I don't, put a lot of information, but, there's your emails attached to it. That's pretty much what I've got.
And remind us about January 19th. It actually did go dark for a few hours,
it did. I was scrolling in about
12 hours.
I think it was around 10 o'clock when it happened for me, and it just glitched out and stopped. And it's like, TikTok is unavailable due to a ban, and it was just weird. And then 12 hours later, I had my peaceful Sunday morning with no social media, and then it was back. And I was like, no, I wanted a quiet day, just one.
That's right. Inauguration day, right? Trump has saved TikTok.
But you survived the 12 hours.
I survived, and it pushed me off of social media farther. So I'm actually grateful for it. But
yeah, I think even this study shows that TikTok is the fastest growing social and video network in the world. So the ban didn't do a whole lot.
It didn't. I think it's still being used, but as I said, I think creators are, moving in different directions to try to just have that backup. But I think the urgency and the worry has really lessened since January 19th.
Yeah.
Personal question, Caitlin. Are you a good tipper?
I try.
Okay, there we go. We're going to talk about how Utah ranks in our nation in terms of tipping when we come back after the break.
If you're ready to buy a home or sell a home and you're worried about the current real estate market because of what you've heard from some of your friends or family, well, we're here to tell you that you really shouldn't be worried because now is a great time to buy and sell with our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Omada Real Estate.
And here's why. Buyers have more options due to increased inventory, which gives them the power to negotiate for repairs, interest rate buy-downs, and closing cost assistance. While at the same time, sellers are still getting top dollar for their homes, with home values that are higher today than ever before. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, the current real estate market presents a win-win opportunity for both buyers and sellers.
But you still do want to make sure that you're working with a team of real estate experts you can trust that can get you some great results. And that's our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Omada Real Estate.
They have helped thousands of Salt Lake City homeowners, and they're ready to help you. To get started, just go to thesternteam.com. That's thesternteam.com, or Google The Stern Team.
The wait is almost over. After 2 years of renovation, the perfect downtown lunch spot is now almost open. The Garden Restaurant opens on June 30th. The Garden Restaurant offers a beautifully designed space and deliciously fresh menu. It's close to everything downtown, next to the Temple Square block. If you need something quick and on the go, or to meet a client, friend, or place to relax, the Garden Restaurant offers healthy options like handcrafted sandwiches, soups, unique salads, plus traditional favorites like homemade pot pies and the famous Lion House rolls. The Garden's new look and tasty menu offer something for everyone, featuring dine-in, patio seating, lobby seating, and grab-and-go or quick online ordering. Visit the Garden today. Reimagine space with remarkable taste. Easy street access on the ground floor of the Joseph Smith Memorial Building. Open weekdays 11 to 3. Check out the menu at thegardenslc.com. Fresh flavors, iconic location. The Garden Restaurant, opening next week, June 30th. See you there.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
This is Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. It is time for our annual spring clearance sale at Arctic Spas. Tons of hot tubs, swim spas, all-weather pools, saunas, and cold tubs, all on sale at up to $7,500 off. Yes, up to $7,500 off. Just in time for the summer fun to begin. Plus, we have a few models left over from last year, like an Arctic Spa Polaris, a 7-foot by 7-foot with 40 massaging jets, 2 pumps, ozone water purification, UV water purification, multicolored LED lights, and a waterfall, now discounted discounted to $89.95. Swim spas starting out at $19.95. This brings a pool to your backyard all year long, but especially for the family fun this summer. Comfort and convenience is on sale with our automated saltwater system. Or save even more with almost new refurbished Arctic spas from years past. Start out online at ArcticSpasUtah.com to pick out your favorite spa. Then stop by one of our 3 Arctic Spa stores covering all of Utah: Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George. Arctic Spas, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
Life can feel hard or overwhelming sometimes, but you don't have to face things alone. Getting help for yourself or someone you're worried about starts with a call or text to 988, where you always have someone to talk to, someone to help you, and somewhere safe to go. 988 Utah is here for anyone experiencing mental health challenges or emotional distress. 988 Utah can even help you navigate how to support your struggling loved ones. Whether you're struggling with anxiety, depression, or suicidal thoughts, trained professionals are ready to listen and provide free, confidential support 24/7. Utah, don't hesitate to call or text 988 for you or someone you care about. The caring staff at 988 Utah can connect you to the right resources. Learn more at 988.utah.gov.
Thinking about retirement? Make sure a My Social Security account is a part of your plan. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can find out if you're eligible to receive benefits, compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates, view spousal benefit estimates, and more. Plan for your future. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Inside Sources.
We're seeing a recent study by Lending Tree that looked at how different states tip. And they looked at the total amount Americans spend on food to be eaten away from home, restaurants, fast food, that type of thing, and calculated the percentage of how much money was spent on tips from each state. And guess what?
We're number one.
We're number one for the worst state that tips. We tip. This is not good because we're number one at everything.
I know,
it seems
right?
like we're always talking about we're in the top 3 or 4 in everything. Utahns spend an average of just 4.1% on tips. Now, that doesn't seem right at all.
Look, so I used to be pretty good at tipping 15%, and then I bumped it to 20% after my kids started working at restaurants where, it wasn't fast food. It was a service-oriented restaurant where they would sit down and servers were involved and stuff. And they got stiffed so often. It was like, oh my gosh, Mom, you wouldn't believe. We had somebody come in and they had a $150 bill. They left me $1, right? Yeah. And that is like, these poor kids were trying to earn some money, and tips are included in the whole overall package of how much they thought they were going to make, and Utah just does not do that great.
Yeah, and it's kind of an interesting cycle between the restaurants and their employees because they underpay them knowing or believing that they're going to make up for it in tips. So they can get away with not even meeting the minimum wage sometimes when they deal with their employees because they say, well, you're going to make a whole bunch of money on tips. Trump has said
no tax on tips.
That we're not going to tax tips. Of course, I don't know how many people actually claim all their tips, but if you're working at a restaurant, they're almost going to presume the IRS does that you're collecting money on tips.
Right.
So you've got to put something in there. But you talk about the percentage. I've always sort of assumed that the 20% was sort of the give and take number. In other words, that was for a B plus service. And if you got the A service, maybe you go to 25% and you get.
And I thought 15 was the benchmark there.
There you go. Have you ever just been so angry, or not angry, but so disappointed with the service that you just don't tip at all?
No, and in fact, I actually have family members, extended family, that don't tip well, and so I'll wait until they leave and then I add more. Right.
My wife does that to me. I think I'm a generous tipper, but my wife is always like, "Oh, come on, she was so nice," and I don't know. When I go have breakfast, I just expect somebody to refill my coffee cup. You know, if
Yeah.
I don't get a refill once or twice.
Look, I try to give some grace, but I remember learning that TIPS actually was an acronym, and it stood for To Ensure Prompt Service. I don't know if that actually is true, but that's what I always had heard. But we have a different conversation around tipping now too, and that's, do you tip at places where you go to either pick up fast food, or even like these drive-through drink places like Swig, right? You have they give you the opportunity every time. Do you want a tip for your $6 drink?
That's odd, and it's funny too, because you get the credit card receipt, the credit card statement before you can click on it. It says tip, and then lately they even break it down. Well, a 20% tip would be $1.30. A 30% tip would be $1.60. Which one do you want to do? And the person that's helping you
feel guilty.
Got it right there in front of you, like, okay, that's what we're going to do. Another thing I've noticed, I haven't seen this before, Holly, but I'm seeing it lately, is that, and it's probably more true if you have a bigger party, if you have like 6 or 7 in your your dinner party, they add the tip in already.
Yep.
And so I've been caught doing the dumbest thing, which is I put a tip on it, and then later I go home and I think, there was already a tip on this. Why did my dinner cost so much money? It seems like it was much more expensive than I expected. It's because the restaurant had already added a tip in it.
Yep.
And I think those numbers are probably minimum, like 20%.
I think I've seen 18%.
Yeah, okay.
Typical, yeah.
I don't like that, because then it's like, well, why don't you just build it into the cost of the food? You know, and you're expecting to get the tip. I like to leave a tip. I like to, feel like you're contributing to the poor person. And I never worked. I worked at a ice cream shop, Snellgrove's up here in
I worked at a fast food restaurant for my first official job, right? Burger King. Yippee.
And you don't really tip at places like that. You don't expect to, but you do. Even your coffee shop now, they'll always give you something, the when you get your latte, how much do you want to tip? But there's a lot of work that goes into making something, so you kind of take it into account. The quality of the food always makes a difference to me, the quality of the service, because you're also tipping the people in the back, I think.
Right. And then you've got places like that where they prepare your food in front of you, right? And so you have a tip for the people who are the chefs and the people who are the servers, and there are conversations around tipping, but when we come up at 4% as the average, just barely over 4% as the Utah average, that does not speak well to our generosity.
I wonder if that has something to do with family size, that maybe we're having a little bit bigger bills than 1 or 2 children families, and so you're already spending more at the restaurant than your friend in Washington D.C. or New York or something is spending. So you're already giving the restaurant a lot more money because you've got 4 kids instead of 1.5.
Maybe. So D.C., you mentioned D.C. They actually the people who live in D.C., we know it's very expensive to live there, but they spend the most per capita on eating out. They spend over $10,000 a year on eating out if you live in D.C. Ooh, ouch.
That's a lot. Yeah, you were talking earlier during the break that the percentage of money people spend on eating out is sometimes as much as they spend on eating in. So that's hard to imagine.
And that was really interesting to me because it did not apply. It doesn't apply now to my family. It didn't apply when we were raising our kids. But one of the things from Lending Tree said they were looking at how much food budget was spent on eating out. And in 2000, this number was still really high, 49.4% of the total food budget people spend on eating out. But now it's almost 56%. It's 55.7%. Generally, Americans spend on eating out of the total food budget that they have, right? I spend a tiny fraction of that.
I don't know. We go out a bit because we're empty nesters right now, and my wife's an incredible cook, and she loves to cook. But sometimes, because she works all day, I feel like I'll take you out to dinner, and we'll probably go out twice a week. But given the number of meals you have, that wouldn't equate to 50-some-odd% of our total budget.
So a reminder, we had a really large family. We have a really large family, but we were raising a lot of kids at one time. And we have a large adoptive family and biological combined. And we would go to McDonald's even when the kids were younger, and we could spend nearly $100 just at McDonald's on like Happy Meals and cheeseburgers and stuff. And so we did not take the family out often. What we did was things like on your birthday, you get a birthday date with mom and dad. We'll take you to the restaurant of your choice, right? But in no way did we spend even 25% of our food budget on eating out. We just had to spend it on feeding kids at home.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us are the same way. We do go out a bit, and maybe we go out more than we should. We just like
it's not a should or should not, right? But it just has to do with the budget.
It was weird during COVID.
Yeah,
you didn't go out for a little while. The best states for tipping, just to shift back to that for a minute, New Hampshire, like you say, District of Columbia, South Carolina, didn't expect that. The worst states, Utah, Mississippi. How could we be worse than Mississippi? I mean, and Idaho, our friends to the
another
north.
Big family state.
Yeah,
right?
another, and then of course it's a lot of southern states, Alabama, Arkansas, New Mexico. That you would expect. I don't know, maybe bigger families or less income to some certain parts of some of those states. But I don't know. When I see 4.09% on tips, that maybe, of course, you got to run across the board. That includes fast food. That includes all kinds of things, I'm assuming. But Utah, step it up. You got to start putting a little bit more money into your tips. Americans spent a total of $77.6 billion on tips in 2023, which is the most recent year this data has been available. At full-service restaurants, tips made up 15.02% of the spending, but when you include limited services restaurants, bars, and similar eateries, the number is just 6.75%. I don't know, and I know we're running out of time. Did the ban on tax on tips, is that part of the big beautiful
bill?
Oh, well, then we'll know about that on July 4th.
We'll keep talking about that.
Maybe. Stay with us for that last hour of Inside Sources.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Becky Bruce. KSL's top story this hour is breaking. The University of Utah student arrested by ICE officials in Colorado is now being released on bond. Caroline Diaz-Gonçalves has lived in Utah for 12 years but was born in Brazil. Her lawyer says she's in the country legally as an asylum seeker pending her application. He says she will be released from the detention center as soon as that bond is processed. About 7,000 students across Utah may lose their access to after-school programs.
The 2026 fiscal year budget proposal eliminates after-school and summer program funding for students here and across the nation. Brent Trentleman with the Utah After School Network says funding is secure for this summer, but they are waiting to hear about what will happen when school starts up again. He says the programming is critical for kids between 3 and 6 p.m.
We tend to see upticks in teenage pregnancy, drug use, violence, online bullying, and other types of risky behaviors when kids are unsupervised at those times.
Trentleman says the after-school programs are strongly supported by 85% of families who agree the after-school programs are more than a daycare experience. Tammy Kikuchi, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Donald Trump says he has spoken with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin and says he no longer supports the idea of Russia mediating negotiations between Israel and Iran. It's unclear how long the pair spoke or any additional topics that might have been discussed. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 115 points, S&P 500 and NASDAQ also both in positive territory. Coming up, the first triple-digit day of the year is coming up fast. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
This is the story of the one.
As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's Julie from the Cache Valley Visitors Bureau inviting you to come celebrate summer in Logan. From nonstop festivals to super close outdoor adventures to the most charming historic downtown and great restaurants, it's all right here. Let's just stop for 1 second. I don't know why everyone who lives in Salt Lake thinks it takes 3 hours to get to Logan, but unless you're dragging a handcart, it'll only take you 1 hour and 20 minutes, so just get in your car and get up here. You know we're Utah's heart of the arts. This week, live performances of Matilda the Musical, the professional Olyark Repertory Theater's inspiring musical Bright Star, plus they open Sherlock Holmes, the final adventure. Wait, the swashbuckling Broadway hit The Scarlet Pimpernel hits the stage too. Good night! Free concerts every weekday at noon in the Tabernacle and free concerts and movies at the Outdoor Plaza. Mark your calendars for the Cache Valley Cruise-In Classic Car Show 4th of July weekend and a packed schedule of nonstop fun all summer long. ExploreLogan.com. ExploreLogan.com.
Are you over 50 and constantly feeling tired, bloated, or just a little off? Don't ignore it. Those could be signs that your liver is crying for help. As we age, our liver, which is essential for metabolism, digestion, immunity, and detoxification, needs extra support and protection. If neglected, it can leave you feeling sluggish and constantly off your game. That's where Active Liver from New Nordic comes in. Available in easy-to-take tablets or delicious gummies, Active Liver combines powerful natural ingredients like turmeric, milk thistle, and globe artichoke extract to help support healthy liver function. With Active Liver, you're giving your body an essential daily defense against toxins from alcohol, fatty foods, and sweets, helping you reclaim your energy, improve digestion, lose the bloat, and strengthen your immunity so you can look and feel your best again. Protect your liver and give it the support that it deserves by making Active Liver from New Nordic part of your daily wellness routine. Find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, or online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com.
Weather Together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Tito.
We have good speeds this hour on northbound and southbound I-15 throughout the valley. I-215, Bangerter, and I-80 look to be in great shape as well. However, we do appear to have a new accident on State Street in Murray. This has caused a road closure heading south between 6400 South and 7200 South in Midvale, so avoid that area if you are able. When you need the financial products and services for every stage of life, Cypress Credit Union is there for whatever the future holds. Visit cypresscu.com today. Tito Nani in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny and warm today with a high of 93. Tomorrow, we're going to see that first triple-digit day of the summer at 102. If we hit that, that would be a record for that date. We'll be cooling down by the end of the weekend. Right now, looking at fair skies and 81 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Becky Bruce from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Talking this morning about the United States Supreme Court and a law that came out involving a Tennessee law that would ban gender-affirming health care for minors. The United States Supreme Court weighed in on that, and the opinion came out, Holly, just this morning, just a few hours before we started the show. And it involves a Tennessee law that did this. It prohibits health care providers from prescribing, administering, or dispensing puberty blockers or hormones to any minors for the purpose of enabling the minor to identify or live with a purported identity inconsistent with the minor's biological birth. It did say that you could prescribe these things for such things as medical reasons, right? But in terms of this, I guess sort of the more broad sort of gender dysphoria, they said no, it does. The law that precludes people from getting that type of treatment, at least until their age of 18, is constitutional and doesn't run afoul of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment.
So one of the things that struck me, right, is they don't make a statement on whether this is a good idea or not a good idea. We talked about that at the top of the 9 o'clock hour when we came in. What they're saying is that this is a policy thing that can be worked through with lawmakers, legislators at the state level. But when it rises to the level of additional scrutiny, right? Is that the correct legal term?
Strict scrutiny, yes.
Strict
exactly.
scrutiny
Right.
under
heightened scrutiny.
Heightened scrutiny. Scrutiny.
Scrutiny.
Dang it.
You got it.
Of the Equal Protection Clause. Will you just explain a little bit to our listeners and to me what is that? What is that heightened scrutiny?
Okay, when we look at, you said it just right. When we look at equal protection, when you're dealing with certain classes, for example, gender, we have a heightened scrutiny when we look at a law that might affect something that discriminates between genders, something that discriminates between races, something that discriminates between people of their national origin, their religion, or something like that.
Okay.
What they said was this didn't have anything to do with gender, and you think, well, maybe it does, but what they said was it applies to both genders.
Right.
We often think that this surgery is mostly for transgender females, but it can be the law wasn't written that way, and so they said no, it doesn't apply that way.
And it's not even just surgery; it can be these puberty blockers and hormonal treatments, right? And it can be either a biological male or biological female. Either one of those can take those, right? But the broader look is, I think, if I'm understanding you correctly, is if it somehow said if you were born this way, this law impacts you differently than if you were born the other way, right? And it's saying that that just did not happen.
Right.
It doesn't do that.
And they didn't really weigh in. And I think this is the question everybody's wondering: what does this do in terms of transgender individuals? Does it discriminate against them? And the lower court said, yeah, they're a quasi protected class. The Supreme Court didn't even get into that because they said the only thing that this bill has classifications on is age and certain medical uses. In other words, it's for people under the age of 18, under the age of 19, I guess, and if they have certain medical conditions that would require something like this. So they were really careful, and I think the minority opinion was very skeptical of this, not to say, hey, we're not discriminating against transgender people. We're just saying that this law doesn't discriminate because it doesn't reference that. It's based solely on age, which you can't. Let's face it, you can pass laws that deal with people's age. Otherwise, we wouldn't have drinking laws. We wouldn't have some firearms laws deal with a person's age. Cigarettes, that type of thing. So there are certain.
We even have to be a certain age to drive a car.
Absolutely, right.
So,
and our courts have said that's not a violation of equal protection. We don't want 8-year-olds driving cars. You know what I mean? So age-based. And they also went into the whole thing that they followed some studies that were done of individuals who had this treatment and had this care before they reached the age of 18, who came in and said, I made a wrong decision. I regret it. Yeah. I wished I had waited, and I could understand that. And so the Supreme Court said, we're not even going to go down that road as to whether or not this was medically necessary and whatnot. In fact, they said that's for the states. Our role is just to. And they even said, we're not even weighing in on whether we like the law or not.
Right.
That's up to you, state of Tennessee and 26 other states.
Right, including Utah.
What we're saying is, if you are going to pass a law, don't bring it to us if it discriminates. And this one doesn't. Mm-hmm. This one does not violate the Equal Protection Clause, so we're going to let it ride. And like you said, there are 26 other states, including the state of Utah, that now can look at their laws and say, we're probably constitutional.
Right, that we can prohibit these types of medical treatments for minors. One of the things interesting in Utah, so we have been passing, the Utah legislature has been passing a variety of laws that impact individuals who are transgender, and some of them are targeted towards minors. That includes athletes, but at the high school level, but we also have them at the college level, collegiate level as well. But interestingly, the legislature asked for a study looking at how these treatments potentially impacted minor youth, right? So youth under age 18 who have had either puberty blockers, hormonal replacement therapy, whatever it is, and how it impacts. And what the study found is it actually is beneficial to the mental health, but it's not going to change what Utah law has put into place right now.
And it's interesting, you brought something up that I hadn't thought about. Let's say that the state of Utah passes a law that says you have to compete at your high school program with the gender that you were born with. Would that be, maybe we have such a law? You know what I mean? Because there's this whole talk about transgender youth should not be able to compete against the other gender. I don't think this opinion would even weigh into that.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't exactly. It doesn't touch it. But Utah does have laws, right, about transgender athletes at the high school level, and basically they're prohibited from competing.
And so that type of law
different
will work. Yeah, it's different, but it's probably going to work its way up.
Right. But this is specifically the healthcare angle, and I actually have family members who are transgender, and one in particular is a transgender woman who did not transition until she became an adult. But I have friends in the transgender community whose children they believe knew at a very young age, right? And so this impacts them trying to get the medical and mental health care that they need in the state of Utah. We'll see what happens, but definitely Utah law now is impacted by this Supreme Court decision.
Absolutely, and we don't have time to get into it too much, but we were expecting a couple of other Supreme Court opinions. We may have those as we meet during the rest of the week, Holly, but one of them is this whole idea that the Supreme Court's weighing in on whether the Trump administration can rewrite the 14th Amendment of the Constitution that allows for birthright citizenship. Right. That was enacted after slavery, and the Trump administration says, well, that was great then, but it shouldn't apply now. Whether or not we can limit LGBTQ themed books in schools, there are other issues like that are still waiting to be decided by our Supreme Court. We thought we might get more than one today, but hopefully we'll get one every day this week, and we can talk about those. This one that did come out today is a big one. I think it's very important.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's a surprise necessarily, and I know it's not a surprise in terms of the layout of the court. It was 6-3 with the three liberal justices deciding that they felt that the Tennessee law was unconstitutional. Yep. The United States Supreme Court has weighed in on that, and that's going to be the state of the law for some time. We'll be back.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Hello, everyone. Amanda Dixon broadcasting live from the Trucordia headquarters here in Linden. And I'm with Rocky Steele, who is the Senior Vice President of Mergers and Acquisitions. How are you doing, Rocky?
So good. So good to be with you today.
I know a lot of people have heard the name or maybe seen the logo of Trucordia, but they don't know exactly what you are. Tell them what you do.
Well, it's such a great question, and we've been really proud as our brand has expanded here in Utah. We're a top 20 insurance brokerage, top 20 in the nation, in fact, the largest in the Mountain West region. And we have grown rapidly over the last number of years. In fact, we've gone from about $70 million to over $900 million in revenue since 2020.
Unbelievable. So how many locations do you have here in Utah?
In Utah, we have more than a dozen locations, and we're here very purposefully.
Yeah.
The company started in California, but came to Utah because of the tremendous economic engine that Utah is, and really sort of what we call the people capital, just the highly educated, industrious workforce that is here, and the friendly business climate as well.
But you're all over the country.
That's right.
How many states are you in?
About 45 now, 45, 46.
And you're one of the top 20 insurance brokerage. Am I saying that right?
That's right.
Impressive. We're going to learn more about you today and about some of the big acquisitions recently that I'm sure you were involved with.
Yeah.
But this is a party here, Rocky.
Oh, what a great environment today. A lot of fun to be here. Big moment for us, and just really appreciate you coming and spending some time with us as well.
It's my pleasure. Rocky Steele, the SVP of Mergers and Acquisitions at Trucordia. Big celebration today here in Linden.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner. Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to soda, just amazing.
I started on soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
An expanded Inside Sources.
So we do have an update on a story we talked about just a little earlier, and that is the University of Utah nursing student who was pulled over in Colorado. We heard just minutes ago, actually, that she has been released on bond and she will be able to come home to her family in Utah.
Yeah, that was 19-year-old Caroline Diaz Goncalves, who was detained by agents in Colorado on June. It was either the 4th or the 5th. She's been in federal custody for almost 2 weeks now, stopped for a minor traffic violation, not even cited, just given a warning citation, but later stopped again.
Yeah,
by
just a few minutes later.
Immigration agents taken into custody. She is here as a dreamer. She's been here since she was 7 years old, now 19 years old, taken into custody, held in a Colorado federal facility. But you're right; she's seemingly now been released. She'll be home with her family, and then hopefully she'll deal with the issues here. But she was here under a status that allowed her to stay here,
right? As a dreamer,
right? So, good news and happy ending, at least so far, with respect to that particular situation.
Okay, so shifting.
This is a major shift.
Major shift. So this is part of the MAHA, right? Make America Healthy Again movement. And we heard earlier this week that Kraft and General Mills are going to be removing artificial food dyes from their products within the next couple of years.
That's going to take some of the appetizing part of the food
you're so
out
funny.
of it. I mean, you get used to something. You get used to your pickles being green and your ketchup being red and your mac and cheese being bright orange, don't you?
Well, the mac and cheese, yes, right. I guess that. So I will assume from that comment you've never made homemade ketchup before.
I wouldn't even know how.
Okay.
Why would you?
It's a tomato-based product, right? It actually has a lot of sugar in it. But that color is a little bit more on the brown side, I guess. It's not brown, but it's a little more brownish than what you get from your squirty ketchup bottle. And if you buy like organic ketchup, it kind of has that same color because it doesn't have that extra dye in it. But that's one of the things that is going to have the artificial dye taken
So that
out.
wouldn't bother me, I don't suppose, because I mean barbecue sauce and that kind of stuff has that same color. And it's not unappetizing. I guess I wonder about other things, but General Mills is removing that color from ketchup starting soon, I guess, and we won't have the Heinz bottle looking bright red when you walk into the restaurant or the store.
Well, apparently ketchup doesn't have artificial color in it anymore. So see, look at us.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe it's the preservatives that make it such a bright red color.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But one thing that does, right, and I don't know if you've seen this as you've driven around, but I've seen a lot of lemonade stands, and sometimes they will sell Kool-Aid. And that's a brand, right? The powdered stuff. In fact, I used to drink it a ton when I was younger. That was the drink of choice in my family growing up. But those and Jell-O and even marshmallows, right? Some of the marshmallows that are colored have the artificial dyes in them.
And you know what? I ride bikes a lot. I work out a lot. I love Gatorade. So I pick it by the color. I mean, I love blue and red Gatorade. They have some uncolored, the white one, like, I don't know.
Oh, right,
I don't even know what it is.
right.
It probably tastes just as good, but I don't want to drink it because it doesn't look the right color.
Because the color tells you what it should taste like. You know, there was a study. It's been a few years, but if you have, for example, a grape flavor, but you color it orange, like it doesn't taste the same to you. Even though it's just artificially colored, we associate certain colors with certain flavors. So to your point, right, we don't want to drink something that looks like water, but it has, grape flavor in it or something.
So you started this talking about Make America Healthy Again, and we're talking about the color of our food. Tell me what you think the relationship of that is. Or do we presume that food coloring has something bad about it?
Yeah,
And I know there was a time when red dye was a
that's
bad
right.
thing. And,
Yep.
and I know I'm digressing a little bit. I make stuff for my hummingbirds, and I put sugar in the water, but I always put a drop of red dye in it, and my wife was like, no, that messes with their digestive system. You can't do that. Well, they don't come if I don't have a little bit of color in it.
So yes, I mean, it's those types of things, right, that these artificial dyes could have negative potential health impacts. That's been a conversation about red dye for a long time, and that people have allergic reactions sometimes to these artificial dyes. And it's one of the things that the Food and Drug Administration for decades has approved these dyes, but there have been key consumer groups that showed about 2/3 of U.S. adults say they're concerned about the food dyes and what they eat. And several states have approved bans on specific dyes in food. So RFK Jr., right, Health and Human Services Secretary, they announced an effort in April to pressure producers to phase out petroleum-based artificial colors. So that doesn't sound very yummy.
Do you remember when Lois Collins was in last week, and she talked to us about book colors?
Yeah.
When they used to make books, they wanted them to be pretty green. To make it really bright, pretty green, they used arsenic.
Right.
So, okay,
Yeah,
that would
that.
make sense to me. That would make sense. General Mills has said that its changes is only impacts a small portion of their K-12 school business. Almost all of their items, they claim, are already made without artificial dyes. In addition, they claim 85% of the company's U.S. foods that are sold on retail stores are already made without dyes. So General Mills is saying this isn't going to change anything. Don't worry about your brown ketchup next time.
Maybe that's the organic part, right, of it, and because I don't use any preservative except for the water bath to preserve it. So one of the other things I think as well, when I make cakes, right, to cake decorating, I add dye to my icing, right, to make the colors. So for sure, we know that is an artificial coloring, right? It's not based off of beets or onions or any other natural source, these colors. But in January, the FDA actually said that they were going to ban red dye number 3.
Red dye number 3 used
by 2027. So it's still out there.
They do allow apparently 36 food color additives, including 8 synthetic dyes. Boy, you wonder what those are made out of. And they did announce red dye number 3. I thought red dye number 3 was toast a while ago.
Apparently it is not yet toast. It will become toast.
Because if mice eat a gallon of it a day, they can develop
we are
a
not
tummy
scientists,
ache. Right,
clearly.
yes. That's really bad.
So let's go back to the cake decorating. I'll tell you one thing, that if you make a homemade cake and you're trying to get black, for example, in your icing, I have not been able to add, or a bright red, I've not been able to add enough food dye to get an actual black instead of just be gray, or an actual red instead of just be pinks. But when you go to a professional baker or even the grocery store cakes, they can really get those bright colors. I do wonder sometimes, right, what kind of dye is in those, because it'll stain your fingers, it'll stain your tongue,
Why would you want black?
Well, you
Unless
don't,
you
not
had
the cake, but the icing. So,
I know, but why black?
Well,
just for the event.
The graduation, right? So
I would expect black cake covering or coating. What's it called?
Icing.
Icing. I lost
frosting.
the word. To taste like anise. You know what I mean?
Oh, that would be disgusting.
I know,
yeah, it
but
doesn't
that's
usually
what I
have a
thought.
flavor.
Otherwise,
but no, like you have a graduation cake, and so you've got the black mortarboard
like
right
this
in the
says,
middle.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, right. You've got to
Sandy.
have some black and some red, and you'll see red, white, and blue icing on cakes and cookies and all kinds of things coming up as we head into the 4th of July. So anyway, we are going to be removing these dyes.
And I'm going to go to Costco this week and buy a case of red ketchup so that I have a lifetime supply. I'm not going to start eating brown ketchup.
One of the things that's really funny is the Kraft mac and cheese. Actually, it's not artificial. It's actually made from natural products, that bright orange color.
That is interesting. Well, when we come back after the break, we've talked a lot this week about the number of events that are happening around the country and around this state. We had Westfest on over the weekend. We had the No Kings rallies around a lot of venues around the state. We're going to talk more, just because of what happened at those events, about how you can be safe when you're at a crowded event. What do you do? And do you carry a weapon? Do you not carry a weapon? Is that really what caused part of the problem? We're going to talk to a former police chief about that when we come back.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. The number of women voting during elections in Utah has been rising over the past decade, but it still lags far behind our historic high.
Utah led the nation in 1992 with the number of registered women voting at about 76%. But it really took a nosedive after that, and we became one of the worst states in the country for women casting votes. Work has been done since that point, and we now sit in the middle of the pack at about 29th. Definitely an improvement, but not great.
KSL News Radio's Randall Jepson reporting. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump attacked Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell again today for not lowering interest rates again. At the White House, the president told reporters that he would do better as Fed chair.
Too late. I call him Too Late Powell because he's always too late. I mean, if you look at him, every time I did this, I was right 100%. He was wrong. Maybe I should go to the Fed. Am I allowed to appoint myself, Doug? I don't know. Am I allowed to appoint myself at the Fed? I do a much better job than these people.
The president cannot fire a sitting chair of the Federal Reserve. Powell's term ends at the end of the year. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 100 points. The S&P is up 12 points. And coming up, record-breaking heat. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
And this is Amanda Dixon. I'm broadcasting live from Trucordia, the headquarters here in Linden. And Michael Moran is with me, the Chief Operating Officer. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing great.
I'm learning what an insurance brokerage is, which is what Trucordia is. Tell our listeners what that is.
Sure. So people have a lot of risks, or whether it be property casualty, et cetera, or some employee benefits needs.
Yeah.
We work with clients, whether they be individuals or companies, to really understand what those risks are, and then we work on their behalf to purchase those from the different insurance companies. So it's really tailoring the insurance products to what they need.
So you work with all kinds of insurance.
We do. Yeah, we'll comb the market to find the best deal for our clients.
And that's car, home, health?
Exactly. So we serve individuals, and that's typically their home, their auto, maybe they have a boat or something like that.
Yeah.
And then from a commercial standpoint, we do property casualty, which are, your normal property casualty lines, but some specialty lines like cyber insurance, or construction companies have unique needs.
Cyber insurance.
Yeah,
that's
it's
a new big
deal.
thing.
And then we'll also do employee benefits as well, and some of the life and health products for companies.
Can people reach out to you directly?
Yeah, truecordia.com.
Easily done. We're here celebrating some really big announcements coming from Truecordia today. Michael Moran, the COO of Truecordia.
Looking for reliable home services you can actually count on? I've got just the team for you. Mountain Home Services. They've been serving Utah since 1954 with honest, upfront pricing and zero hidden fees. Plus, they back every job with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. With summer heating up, now's the time to get your AC in shape. Mountain Home Services delivers fast, expert air conditioning service to keep your home cool and comfortable. And don't forget, they also handle electrical and plumbing work with the same trusted care. And here's the best part. KSL listeners get exclusive limited-time specials, but you have to call and ask. These deals won't last, so don't miss your chance to save. Call 801-543-2222 today and tell them KSL sent you. That's 801-543-2222 or visit mountainhomeservices.com. Get the service you need and the deal you deserve.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Ricky Meese.
We do have some of the usual slowdowns again in Davis County, southbound I-15 near Burton Lane as you're traveling between Kaysville and Farmington, and in Murray. Be aware of a crash on State Street. And this is near 6400 South, not far from the mall. You'll see that it had been blocking all lanes of traffic. Now they're trying to get it moved to the right with one lane still blocked, and it has caused some backups. Whether you park it, stripe it, or pave it, GoPave Utah has your blacktop covered at GoPaveUtah.com. That's GoPaveUtah.com. Call or visit GoPaveUtah.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
We're looking at a high of 102 tomorrow, which would break the daily temperature record. The breeze moves in tomorrow as well and continues into the weekend. Right now, it is 82 and fair. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
This weekend, Utahns saw some very tragic shootings over a couple of events that occurred that were supposed to be anything but tragic. If you recall, on Saturday, an innocent bystander was killed after shots rang out at the No Kings protest in downtown Salt Lake City. Afa Alu, 39-year-old fashion designer, father of two, husband, was killed. He was from Samoa. And then Westfest, just couple miles to the west, 3 people were killed by gunfire, including an infant and a 39-year-old woman who were celebrating that event there. We have so many things going on. Even this weekend, more is happening. The summer is full of concerts and festivals. People are going out. Taylorsville's officials are looking at their Taylorsville days coming up right after Westfest and talk to KSL News Radio's Verl Johnson about how they're reacting.
The city is closing some of the bigger rides at the carnival 2 to 3 hours earlier than usual, shutting them down at 8 p.m. Taylorsville City Communications Director Kim Horiuchi says they'd already put some safety precautions in place before the shooting in West Valley City, but decided to review everything again.
We're making every effort to maintain a fun and safe environment for Taylorsville Days.
Horiuchi says they're also adding more light towers and spreading the carnival out more across the park. In a statement, Taylorsville police say their officers will be more visible and ready to respond so people can enjoy the festivities. Taylorsville Days begins June 26th. Verl Johansson, KSL News Radio.
Look, I think one of the questions for me and probably a lot of people is, how do you keep yourself safe? How do you go have fun at an event where there's a lot of people, but how do you also keep yourself safe while you're there? And we're joined today by Chris Burbank, former Salt Lake City Chief of Police. Welcome again.
Always a pleasure.
So tell us, Chief, if you're wanting to go to Taylorsville Days this weekend, or you're wanting to go somewhere else around the state, in light of what happened last week, and we still want people to go, we still want people to show up, but what let's say you're taking your kids or you're doing something like that, what should a person be aware of? What should a family member be aware of, a father or mother, when you go to something like this?
Well, I think the most important thing right up front, Greg, is if we don't participate, then the people who intend to separate us, divide us, win. And so, yes, we need to be there. But you're aware. You're not paranoid. You're just aware. Notice your environment. See what's going on. When you feel the hairs on the back of your neck stand up because of an argument over in this corner or something that makes you feel, go the other direction, right? If you're going to a protest, have a plan, right? What do you want to accomplish? And those people who do not have like vision for the gathering, the protest, whatever it is, well, don't be near them. Go somewhere else, but still participate. Be aware.
Do you think that families should have some kind of an exit plan? I mean, you've talked about being aware. Should you also, I don't know. I remember we've had family things about your fire safety plan. If you have an exit, this is how we meet up or whatever. What kind of, if you get separated, for example, what kind of plans can families put in place that way?
Exact same plans, right? And I've done it myself with my kids at large events. In the event something happens, you can't find us, go to the car or go to this entrance, go to the fountain, right? There's all kinds of different ways you can designate and say, this is where we want to meet. But always, you want your kids to be, again, aware. If there's gunfire or trauma over here, go the other direction, right, and then we'll hook up later.
Chris, it seems like people have the right, and I believe this absolutely, to feel when they go to these events that the local jurisdiction, whether it's Salt Lake or West Valley or Taylorsville, has law enforcement on scene. And that's an expectation that we have, and an expectation that we have every right to appreciate. When you were chief and you were getting ready for a big event, a parade or a protest or something like that, what are you telling your officers when that day is clearly different than the day like today when nothing's going on?
Well, I think what you tell your officers is we're going to participate, right? We're a part of the event. We're not this stand apart, stand in the corner, look tough sort of thing. Participate, be involved, walk around. Visibility, participation, and awareness creates an environment in which people who intend to do harm are uncomfortable. And that's exactly what we want. So in the event of, these days and different things that cities are sponsoring, have your police department in and about the event, participating, talking to people, right? When you notice the cops and they are noticing the people, you just don't want to commit or cause problems.
Yeah, I really appreciate those insights. I have a question about Utah's gun laws and either open carry or concealed carry, but what can people expect, if they see someone with a gun on their hip? Should they be comfortable? Should they, what should they do there?
Well, so this is a huge challenge in our state. I'm not comfortable, right? And so I pay attention.
I'm glad to hear that.
Right?
I really am.
And I'm going to move away from, especially someone who's awkwardly displaying, overly talking about it. Right? You just need to be aware of those things. Don't hang out in environments that make you feel uncomfortable. Go to the other side of the park. Enjoy another portion of the event. Get food somewhere else. There are different things you can do to avoid some of those things, and realize that, yes, in this environment, there are lots of people who are carrying guns.
And I suppose, Chris, you would also say if you do see something happening, rather than engage, you find the closest police officer, find the closest security officer, find somebody that can intervene and do something that you are trained to do. You, Chris Burbank, that me, Greg Skordas, I'm not trained to do. Correct?
Correct. Well, and before the event happens, right? When you hear someone screaming, yelling, whatever the circumstance, being overly physical, go tell somebody about it. Right? Tell a police officer about it, or tell a security individual, hey, this guy, he's just acting up. Would you just keep an eye on it? Because far too often you hear from everyone in the crowd, oh, yeah, he was weird. He did this, he did that, but did you tell him? No. And then eventually he does something.
Yeah.
So, again, awareness.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, Chris. We really appreciate your time.
He's been with us twice this week, and I just love the guy. He was one of the best chiefs we ever had in this state, and it was sad when he left, but I'm glad he's still around, and he's still a friend of the show. He has a lot of good advice for us all the time.
So in our last minute, can you give us a quick update on where we sit with the two incidents, the No Kings shooting and with the peacekeepers, and then what we know about Westfest right now?
Yeah, we know that they're still under investigation. I know that's the cop-out answer, but with respect to the No King shooting, there was a man taken into custody, Gamboa, who was the person that was carrying the gun. He was injured. We know that he had a sort of a bullet wound. It wasn't serious, a grazing wound. He's in custody now, and the district attorney's office has a certain amount of time to either charge him or release him. He didn't pull the trigger. He didn't cause the death of someone, but he was acting suspiciously and caused another person to do that. That person I'll just describe as the peacekeeper. What happens to him, we don't know either, but I'm assuming the district attorney's office is looking right now at what to charge both of those men with, if anything, and they will make that decision. The peacekeeper's not in custody, and the reason that's important, Holly, is this. When a person's in custody, you've got to put up or shut up. You can't just leave them there. So you typically have, we often think of 72 hours or 48 hours, whatever it is, but you've got to do something fairly quickly. Then you've got the 16-year-old, the West Valley Westfest situation, who allegedly shot and killed 3 people. We know that he's in custody right now, and because of Utah law, they're allowed to keep him in custody in a adult facility. So I'm assuming that he's in the Salt Lake County Jail or a facility similar to that, which there would only be 2 in Salt Lake County, Oxbow or Salt Lake. We don't know what's going to happen with him. I'm sure the district attorneys are looking at that one as well.
Okay, still pending. Okay, when we come back, I get to talk about Juneteenth.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Hello, everybody. Amanda Dixon broadcasting live from the Trucordia headquarters here in Linden. Jeff Hutchins is with me. Jeff, you are the Chief People Officer.
That's right.
I love
Chief
that.
People Officer.
Now,
great title, huh?
Trucordia has won so many awards. I'm reading about Economic Engine, fastest growing company in Utah, CEO of the Year.
Yep.
You're doing something right here.
Well, we are very proud to be here in Utah, for one. And we focus so much on the people because we are in a people business. Insurance is people.
Yeah.
And so, look, you want your insurance to be with someone who's competent, who's strong, who knows you personally, and you can find that at Trucordia.
Yeah.
And so, look, it makes a ton of sense for us to celebrate when we have milestones. It's one of our values is celebrate, and today is just one of those days where we are proud to be here in Utah, and we are proud of, our team here, and we want to celebrate.
Just quickly, you've got a phenomenal CEO.
Yes, Felix Morgan is the best of the best.
Yeah.
He leads. He does it the right way. He cares about people. It's real easy for me to be the chief people officer here because of him.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks. Thanks, Amanda.
Jeff Hutchins, chief people officer with Trucordia. It's a special day, and we'll talk to the CEO coming up next half hour here on KSL.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Jane has 150,000 miles on her truck, and she's proud of that. Jane's secret? AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help her find the right parts. Jane's brother Josh only cares that his car starts and goes, but when it doesn't, he also goes to AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help with free services. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Have you seen those billboards that have a giant turtle on them that say win a new air conditioner? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and you're probably wondering, what's that all about? Well, the turtle is a character in our new TV commercials that'll be airing this summer. I know it's kind of silly, but we're always trying to figure out how to grab attention and stand out in a crowded market. We thought a big turtle would do the trick. Another thing we're doing is every week this summer, Any Hour is giving away an air conditioner to one lucky customer. We're calling it the Coolest Summer Sweepstakes. Here's how it works. This summer, if you get an estimate to replace your air conditioner or purchase a new air conditioner from Any Hour Services, you'll automatically be entered into our weekly drawing. If your name is drawn, Any Hour will pay for your air conditioner, up to $8,750. We just want to meet more homeowners that are in the market for a new air conditioner and have the chance to earn their business. We're confident that once you have an Any Hour technician in your home, you'll see why we have over 28,000 Google reviews. No purchase is necessary. See official rules at anyhour.com.
This Friday from 10 to 1, the movie show comes to Sound Sleep. But first, take time to learn about a better night's rest. Sound Sleep delivers oral appliance therapy that treats sleep apnea without the use of CPAP machines. They're professionally fit, warranted, and covered by most major medical insurance. End the days of a poor night's sleep. With offices from Clearfield to St. George, Sound Sleep will help. Call Sound Sleep at 801-716-8672 today.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Since 1985, the National Ability Center has empowered individuals of all abilities through world-class outdoor recreation and leadership training. Headquartered in Park City with 2 Moab locations, they offer a plethora of adaptive programs. CEO Willie Ford joins us with more.
At the National Ability Center, we celebrate all abilities and redefine perceived limitations through the spirit of I Can. Through more than 20 adaptive programs, including skiing, cycling, horseback riding, climbing, and more, we empower individuals to discover what's possible. And with on-site lodging, participants and their families can fully immerse themselves in the experience. Last year, we delivered over 30,000 transformative experiences to more than 5,500 individuals with disabilities, veterans, and their families, helping them build confidence, develop life skills, and connect through adventure and sport. This is all made possible by our amazing community of donors, partners, and volunteers who support our mission every day. With a 40-year legacy and a national reach that's growing, we are proud to call Utah home and to be part of the state's thriving spirit of innovation and impact. Our vision is bold. It's to meet the evolving needs of millions living with disabilities here in Utah and across the country.
The National Ability Center stays true to its mission, creating a welcoming space where everyone can enjoy recreation and the power of inclusion. Learn more and get involved at discovernac.org. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Repair or replace your roof now during S&S Roofing's huge spring sale. 12 months interest-free financing, the highest value roofing job in Utah. Dial pound 250 and then say S&S Roofing.
An expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
So tomorrow is Juneteenth. It's a mashup of June 19th, right? And it's a relatively new federal holiday, state holiday. we'll talk about that in a minute. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what Juneteenth even is. So the Emancipation Proclamation by President Abraham Lincoln was on, I have to look at my date. It's January 1st, but it was not implemented across the United States for 2.5 years. The last place to actually let slaves go was Galveston, Texas. It actually was Texas, but it was in Galveston. It was after the end of the Civil War. President Lincoln had been assassinated, and we actually had to have federal troops go into Texas and say, these slaves are freed.
Right, yes. It's about time. And that was on June 19th, probably
June 19th.
150 years ago.
Yeah, 18 something. So that's it. Really is the celebration. It's also called Emancipation Day or Freedom Day, and it was when even after President Lincoln had done the Emancipation Proclamation, they were still fighting the Civil War, and it finally finished. But when they got to Texas, there were still some 250,000 slaves being held in Texas.
Yeah, so I have just a little bit of a bone to pick with Juneteenth, and I appreciate the holiday, and I love holidays, but we're not doing it right in Utah, and I'll tell you why. The state of Utah has decided that Juneteenth is going to be celebrated like we do Labor Day or Memorial Day. It's going to be a Monday so that we can enjoy a 3-day weekend, which is great. So all the state courts were closed on Monday for the 3-day weekend. But I practice in federal and state court, so I had court Monday, federal court.
Tomorrow.
The feds take it on the correct day. So the federal government, my wife who works for the federal government, has tomorrow off. The federal courts are all closed. But guess what? I have state court tomorrow. So there was no break to me. I think we got to get it one day or the other.
No break for you.
The feds in the state need to sit down and say, when are we going to enjoy this? I actually prefer the 3-day weekend as opposed to the day that actually coincides with this specific event. But that doesn't make sense if you're going to call it Juneteenth, because it really is June 19th.
Yeah, it really is June 19th. And actually, the year was 1865. So, again, June 19th, 1865 was the day. And again, we have to be careful with saying all the slaves were finally set free, because even the mayor of Galveston said, we're putting you all back to work on the farms. Sorry.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, there were still there. In fact, sometimes there still are growing pains, but there were still growing pains. But we actually have Janetta Williams, the president of the NAACP Salt Lake branch, explaining to us the importance of Juneteenth and what it represents.
I think what it would be an appreciation for where the country has come from slavery until now, because during slavery, it was against the law to even try to teach the slaves how to read and write. There's been just so many changes now, even after Brown v. Board of Education. Then there were so many schools that closed because they didn't want to integrate the black and white kids. The appreciation of Juneteenth is that individuals are not slaves, they're not owned, they're not property, and they can work, they can get an education, and be able to live the American dream.
So Juneteenth stands for me, Holly, as the day that we really ended slavery. I mean, whether it happened that day or not, or whether it was in Galveston, Texas, or whatever, but it's to celebrate that.
That's right.
And I mean, that's what I celebrate for.
Right. It is a celebration. And, I had one of my older kids ask me one time, like, you just barely started celebrating this, and this was a few years ago, and she said, I don't understand why. Like, you never did this while we were growing up. And my simple answer was, I didn't know about it.
Right.
And in fact, there was a 2021 Gallup poll that found that 68% of white American adults knew little or nothing about Juneteenth, but 96% of Black Americans knew at least a little bit. And I'm hopeful that that's starting to change, right? So we have a large multiracial family, and so now we do celebrate it, and we recognize the day. We have books that are appropriate. We do food. We do red punch and some chicken and just some things that are supposed to be associated with this day, and we have a lot of fun.
Federal day or state day?
Federal.
Okay. So, yeah, I think that's very important. It hasn't been a recognized state holiday for very long, and I think a lot of people are still like, why aren't we working tomorrow?
That's right. That's right.
And even sometimes,
Yep.
and this shows some people's naivety. Maybe my own a couple of years ago. Juneteenth. What does it mean? I mean, you
That's
have
right.
to know what it means. And I'm glad we were able to
That's
hear
right.
from Janetta Williams.
It only became a federal holiday in 2021 and then became a state holiday in 2023. So it is very, very new, right? Even though the celebrations have been happening across the country in different communities, but now it is actually recognized as a legal holiday.
And I should have known, Holly, that you would know both of those years to the year. It was beautiful. So what's our fun fact of the
Our
day?
fun fact of the day is it is International Sushi Day. Do you eat sushi?
Oh, I love it. It's one of, I think it's the meal that my wife and I enjoy having together.
Really?
More than anything else. I mean, if you're celebrating something good, like, hey, I just got a job at KSL. Let's go out. Let's go celebrate. We will almost always go to sushi.
That is so interesting. I have a daughter who loves sushi as well, and I was really hesitant because I don't love fish, but I do enjoy most sushi that I've tried, and I'm not super brave.
It's something we do if we go to Vegas, if we go to New York, if we go anywhere out of town, and we'll find out what their better sushi establishments are, and that's where we'll go. My kids love it, so I love that when my daughter's in town, she always wants to go to sushi. You know, my son's in town, hey, let's go get sushi. It's just something, I don't know why, because I'm not a big fish fan either.
Great.
But sushi, I'll eat it all day.
Okay, so are there good places in Utah, landlocked desert state, where we can get good sushi?
Oh, incredible places. I mean, I hate to name them all because there are
No,
so many.
you can't leave out anybody. But
Yeah, well, okay, then I'm going to get in trouble. But a really good place down on State Street in Salt Lake is Sapa. Incredible place. Tsunami, very good place. I mean, I'm going to forget them because I love them all. There's actually, I haven't found a bad sushi place in Salt Lake County. They're all very good. And you know, you can almost tell the better ones because you got to stand in line.
Yeah,
you know
right.
What I mean? There's
Yeah.
some sort of out in the boonies that are maybe not quite as popular, but I don't
grocery
know.
store sushi.
I don't do that. I don't do that. I have, but only when I was desperate. I would say this for landlocked, we do incredible sushi here in Utah. You can get it. You can get it at even some restaurants that are primarily like Chinese food or Japanese food. They'll say, and we also have a sushi bar. So
Wow.
you can. I don't know how they get it and how they have such quantities
They
of
have
it all the
great
time.
chefs. Yeah.
Yeah, but they have great chefs. I wouldn't want to. I don't do it at home. My wife made sushi once, and it sort of worked.
Oh,
but there's something about going to a restaurant and have somebody that actually knows what they're doing, and the special knives and everything that they use.
All right, so Rebecca, if you're listening, sushi for dinner tonight.
That's
says
what
Greg.
we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. After the break, we're going to be joined by Maria Chitleos on her midday program. Stay with us.
Police chief is briefing state lawmakers about the No Kings protest shooting that left an innocent bystander dead over the weekend. KSL News Radio's Eric Cabrera is at the Capitol with the latest.
Chief Red is at the Capitol as we speak, breaking down what police